Good evening, everyone. We are tonight going to discuss the budget of the fire department. These are all for 2017. Emergency management, the health officer, and the Souhegan Valley Ambulance Service warrant article. So we're going to start with the fire department, but before we do that, we have a request from someone to give an explanation as to the process that we're following for the review of budgets. So I guess there's a couple of things I wanted to make note of. There are two RSAs that deal specifically with the duties and the authority of the budget committee and the duties of the governing body and other officials. So those are really what is the guideline for what we're doing.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start with the duties of the governing body because that sort of explains why we're going through this process. And basically what that says is the governing bodies of municipalities adopting this subdivision, and the subdivision is budget committee, shall review the statements submitted to them under RSA 32-4 and shall submit their own recommendations to the budget committee, together with all information necessary for the preparation of the annual budget, including each purpose for which an appropriation is sought and each item of anticipated revenue at such time as the budget committee shall fix. So what that is saying is that we need to come up with our recommendations for the 2017 annual budget. And by line item, because it states for each purpose, and then we need to submit that to the budget committee for their review. So then the budget committee, and this would be RSA 3216, says to prepare the budget as provided in RSA 32.5 for submission to each annual or special meeting of the voters of the municipality. And that's it. Okay, it talks about school district, but we don't have that. To confer with the governing body or bodies and with other officers, department heads, and other officials relative to estimated costs, revenues anticipated, and services performed to the extent deemed necessary by the budget committee. And then it goes on to talk about conducting the public hearing and forwarding the final budget to the state. So the process that we've chosen to follow at this point is we have a select board meeting, and at that time we're asking all of the departments to submit their budgets to the selectmen for their review. At the same time, we've invited the budget committee, and the hope is that they can ask questions at the same time we are, so that they can evaluate it, and then we will set where we think our appropriation should be and forward that to them, and then they can review it additionally and do as they see fit. So it's sort of a two-step process, and we're trying to combine the discussion of the budget and the information gathering to one session so that we don't have a lot of repetitive time going by. So hopefully that will help explain. Okay? Does it make sense?
Sure.
All right. Okay, so now we will start with the fire department, and who will be presenting? I don't have the minutes in my folder. That's the budget committee's.
That's the selectmen's minutes, the selectmen's minutes.
There are no budget committee meeting minutes.
Oh, I don't,
For last week.
It's just the selectmen minutes.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have them.
Well, you approved them, that's why.
Oh, did we approve them? Yes,
No, we haven't.
we did approve them.
You don't approve them.
The
It's
select
We don't
board.
approve them.
I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know
So-
when you approved them.
oh, last week we did.
At our
Tuesday.
selectmen's meeting on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Because the week before, when the combined budget, selectmen, it was approved there.
I think the one that you might be referring to is when
When
we
we
just
met.
met as a budget committee, and I was there as the liaison.
No,
Okay.
There's no meeting last week either.
no, the meeting with the budget committee
Before that,
combines, you know, not Halloween, the week before,
yeah,
the minutes were called for approval at that meeting by the selectmen. So I was just looking for I'm just looking for some similarity, you know, some.
Those were budget committee.
those were, I think, from the budget committee met 2 times independently prior to the select board meeting. The first meeting we had as a combined group was that meeting before Halloween. Okay, the week before Halloween.
And so
So we
those
didn't
meetings-
have any minutes.
So those minutes that were approved were,
From the budget committee, independent of the select board,
okay?
okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so, fire department,
That would be me.
that would be you.
So, we gave this to you in a hard copy form so you could make notes on it, and so that we could make notes as we go forward. And so if you look at the first page where the budget comparison is, we have put in additional expenditures that we've had for this year, which changed that. And the only comment I have on that is, if you look at the 360 account where it says disposal custodial, that's one of the reasons that we have a new budget amount for the proposed 2017 year. That is going up to $400, so what we did was we did some investigation on why we even need that dumpster at the back of the fire station. So I had a meeting with Peter Goey this past week, and they are going to be picking up our trash just like they pick up all the trash for all the other departments, which is gonna reduce that 360 line item to 0. So that now brings us down to a comparison budget increase, and that we're asking for a 4.82% increase. So that's due to that disposal cost coming down.
Well, we're not really reducing the cost, right?
Sure, we're getting rid of the dumpster.
We're eliminating the
We're
service.
eliminating the service from the dumpster company.
Hang on,
Mhm.
just bear with me.
Go ahead.
Peter will be picking it up on his way by,
Right,
and if he doesn't pick it up because they're busy doing something else, we've
Yeah.
agreed to take it to the
but then
transfer
we're
station.
still paying the tipping fees that the town pays. So that's all we're
Peter told me
paying.
there would be no fees for us to pay, to drop it off up there.
We do pay by the pound on what goes over.
Right.
So none of the other departments though have that fee assessed, so.
No.
Right, and he
Okay.
told me that wouldn't be
Yeah.
assessed to us either,
Right.
so we thought it was smart to reduce it, we don't have that much trash that we need a dumpster at the back of the station. We can easily, on our way by or on his
Do
way
you
by, pick it up.
generate much?
We don't generate enough to have a dumpster.
No, but I'm just, when
No,
I
we
saw
really
this,
don't.
I was wondering,
Yeah.
what do you generate?
We don't, we bought a shredder for the paper, so that's reduced our paper sizes down. We've started to do some recycling, so that's brought that down a little bit, and we just don't have a lot of things that we throw away anymore.
So
Mostly
you'll
it's paper
continue with the
products.
recycling, so when they pick it up, it can go to?
Yep.
Perfect, good.
Yeah, and we've also reduced costs on our recycling because we've gone to a water cooler as opposed to bottled water, which is what they had down there before, so that's gonna cut down on the recycling as well. If you go to the next page, the 5-year budget comparison. The bottom line on the 2017, again, is a figure change because of that dumpster release and a couple of other things that reduced when we went back through. So that bottom number on 2017 in the first column should be 1226.83, so 122,683. And again, that budget increase or decrease is gonna show up 4.82% as opposed to
Say again,
6.01.
4.82.
And what we wanted to show here was that we really have had no significant budget increase over the last 5 or 6 years. And even though there's been no budget increase, consistently the fire department has overspent their budget consistently, and not just by a little bit, but by a significant amount. So when we came to the finance committee last year and came to the selectmen last year, one of the things we said is, if you give us this budget that we can work with, we will stay within that budget, we will not go over it. And we're gonna make that same commitment again this year. With the exception of the catastrophic pump failure that we had on the engine, we are well within our budget for this year, and it looks like we're gonna be just under our budget predictions. And that was by making some concessions in some places to make up for the significant maintenance and things that needed to be done on the trucks. So we gave up on training, but we can get to that as we go further along. So, my point on this one is, that the previous fire department administration significantly went over in all the years, and yet consistently, we've never had any big increase. And we're asking for a marginal increase this year, and we're gonna make up for the places where we've seen that we really need to put some improvements into this department.
Yes. Yeah, Dave, how's the overspending reflected in the town budget?
It's,
When they were over,
It would
did they
have
take
been, it's the bottom line, but
take the money out of something else, or?
right, there's a department that has savings in it, as long as we don't exceed the bottom line. Not that I'm looking to recreate the wheel, but I didn't remember,
It was a 14 grand pump, if I remember.
We're getting there.
Hmm?
No, the 14 grand
We're gonna
pump
do this in
came out
order.
this year.
In 14, what was the reason that went over, do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay,
All we did was pull the numbers to just show we
Yeah.
didn't. In all honesty, I can't say that, I don't wanna, I don't know.
no, that's the right answer.
And then the only thing in 2015, which was last year, we, as a department, took control of the budget and kept it, and you can see that it was significantly under. We had originally planned to put the first year of a lease on a thermal imaging camera onto that year, in order to pay for that first year of that thermal imaging camera. And we had a discrepancy between what we thought we had for money left over and what Roger actually had left over, so we ended up not spending that $3,000 on that camera. So that's why it looks like we gave back $5,352.
Let's get on to that one later, because you have that as a separate line item, but staying on your 5-year budget comparison.
Yep.
The question I had on that is you're showing this year's spent to date of 99. Is that correct?
Yeah, but that may be, what's the new,
I think we're down 79, and that's why I'm curious.
do you have why that?
I think
79
that-
and
I think we
79.
figured the estimate of the,
What we did was we took the anticipated year-end bills that we still have outstanding, the heat, electricity, Comcast, water, fuel,
Stipends?
stipends.
that looks like, I
And
think what I did
that
there was
puts
actually
us
put the
at that
stipends in there,
99.
then we decided to take them out because we weren't concrete on that figure yet. So
Okay.
we pulled them out, that's why this number is different from this number.
So that's what,
Actually, year-to-date is 79,
Yeah.
804.
so that 99 is right now anticipated with what we still have outstanding on guaranteed bills that we haven't paid yet for the remainder of the year. Out of the 117.
Okay,
Actually,
I'm
it shows
showing that we
12,000.
have approximately 37,000 left over. We're mid-November, we have the stipends yet to pay out.
Yeah, stipends aren't in there yet.
I understand that, so once we factor in the stipends, will we stand anticipated costs
We
through the
will
end
still
of the
be under.
year? What is your projection for that cost to be? It'll be higher than 99.
Right now,
That's the projection, was the 99, I believe.
no, that's
no.
not including stipends,
Yeah,
because I'm looking
Oh,
down
okay.
here and the stipends aren't on there.
and that's my concern, because I'm showing stipends could be another $25,000, and that would put it over.
No, not over 30,
Excuse me?
go ahead.
If we factored in the stipends as they are with a really rough draft this time, because she has
Yeah.
not gone through them yet, we're looking at 99,187.63.
That's on
Which is
the
what that
5-year.
number is. So that left us after our projected end-of-year expenses of another $11,712.42. It's leaving us little over $6,000, 6142, left for the remainder of the year. But that's factoring in our heat, electric, Comcast, water. all
Let me
that's
just
in
take
it.
the big number. If right now you're roughly $80,000 spent to date, spent. Stipends is showing another 25,000 potential to go out. So we're gonna be 105,000 at that point.
Mhm.
Your budget's 117 and change. So the 105 to the 117 is only leaving us about 11 or 12,000 left. Is that gonna cover? Thank you.
We will make it cover it.
So what do you, try to, for a little bit, what do you expect to spend this year? The end of the year, what do you think that number will be at the end of the year, Dave's comments included?
Want my honest opinion?
Yes, I do. That's why we're sitting here.
117,000.
Huh?
117,000.
Okay, so you expect to hit the budgeted number.
And the reason for that is because there's a lot of things that need to be done in the department that haven't been brought up to speed, that if we have any extra money left over, we're gonna begin making those improvements this year, so that we don't have to make them in future years. And my understanding is that's acceptable, so long as we don't go over our bottom line.
And you have the, right. My other question is, on that budgeted line,
This
total
budget-
budget,
Yep,
does the value in the, vehicle maintenance include that pump that we had to replace? Because that's the one that's way over.
That figure's not. in
We're
there,
gonna
but
be
still want to put
over-
that in.
this budget, we're gonna be over by that 14,000,
And that's what I'm wondering, because your budget was 12, we're at 28 and change to date, and that's why I thought it had the pump in there.
well, we reflected it as coming out of that line item, but my understanding was that when we went over by that amount, that would be coming out of the legal fees or something that weren't spent on the pipeline. Remember, we filed for that, we tried to file for that emergency money
Right.
out of capital, or out of the reserve accounts. and-
I understand all of that.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at our cost to date of roughly $80,000, it includes an overspent on fire vehicle maintenance.
Correct.
You're saying exactly what you're right. That
Okay.
14,000 is reflected in that 28,000.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Good job.
I got you. Took a second.
Wendy's gonna take over from here.
No, you keep going, I'll fill in the flat.
Okay.
She'll fill in the
We're
blank.
tag teaming. If you go to the salaries and stipends, the 111 account, the only increase we're asking for is to increase the pay for firefighters or any of our personnel who have increased their, and gotten their EMT. And that's partly because of the extra hours they have to have for training, the extra hours they do for equipment maintenance, the times that they go out to assist Sauhegan Valley Ambulance. They have to recert, unlike firefighters, they have to recert every 2 years, so they have to spend time in the classroom doing that. So an increase of $300 for the year for each one of them, and there's 5 of them. So that is the only increase we've asked for in salaries and stipends. And I know we're still working on the actual formula for salaries and stipends. But we need to still look at some of the state requirements and some of the laws and stuff as far as calling volunteers. So we're looking at that. It's just, this took precedent tonight.
Meredith, you mentioned $300 for 5 is 15, and they're asking for 2. Did I miss something?
What was the other increase?
We had the,
I thought there was some
Additional
fire
ones.
wardens.
Oh, fire
Yeah.
wardens.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my
Because
question,
we added a fire warden.
What is for you, what is an EMT?
What-
There's a variety of flavors and colors of EMT. What
All
do
of
you
our
have?
EMTs, we're gonna give them that $300. We're not
No,
differentiating.
that's not what I asked. What to you, by definition, is an EMT?
That has a nationally recognized emergency
Is that-
medical technician.
These are DMRs, actually, what you have, or
No,
EMT?
we have actual EMTs and
With
advanced
license.
EMTs.
So
So they're
you-
all licensed
But-
under the National
think to your question, an EMR is still a licensed provider and they still have to go through continuous education.
I
So we
understand
do
that,
not, we
but,
do not have any.
but they're different, the licensing is quite different between the two.
Yes, and the required hours and the required research hours are quite a bit different too.
So
They're
you
quite a
have
bit less.
EMTs, not EMRs?
We do not have any EMRs.
Regards to the fire inspector's position, my understanding is that some of those responsibilities are going to the town building inspector.
We are still working on that. I met with the building inspector today, and we're in the process of hammering that out. Some of that is dependent on what he puts in as a salary requirement or a stipend requirement on his side. It looks like that's gonna come together. If it does, we're looking to, and this hasn't even become public knowledge yet, because we still haven't hammered out all the details of if it's gonna happen or not. But if it does happen, what we're looking at on our end is reducing that from an inspector position at the captain's level to reducing it down to a fire prevention officer at a lieutenant's level, which would be a $500 difference. We're gonna keep the responsibilities for the fire drills at the schools, keep the responsibility for the fire inspections for the schools. Fire prevention obviously would stay with us, some of the life safety stuff would stay with us.
Are
So,
you
we're
saying you're gonna create a new position that's got a value of $2,000?
We're looking, I think that when Rick and I have been talking, we're looking at tagging those two together for that additional $2,000. I think he might
Tagging
have
what two together?
the building inspector and the fire inspector.
Right, he's got one in for 2,500,
Yes.
which is, I think,
Which
the
is
same
500 more than
value.
mine.
So you're at, your fire inspector position is a 2,000?
Yep.
Okay.
But you're not gonna call it a fire inspector, it's a fire prevention officer.
The fire inspection will go over to, I'll sign off on some of the authority to Rick as the building/fire inspector. And then we will keep the fire prevention side of it, which is fire drills and some of those things. And eventually that
Your budget is
person,
only gonna be reduced by $500?
well, because it's going from a $200 position, or $2,000 position to a $1,500 position.
Well, 2,500,
to 2,000.
2,500.
But you're not,
$2,500.
you're not creating a new lieutenant to do this, is that what you're saying you're going to do?
We already have an open lieutenant's position that we didn't fill this year. So
So
that
that would include
position,
the $6,000 that you have budgeted?
so yes, we're not increasing our budget at all.
So why don't we just zero out the fire inspector's position?
Well, if we do that, we haven't finalized any of the stipend stuff yet, so I didn't want to start making those in the weeds changes to all of that stipend stuff until we knew what we were dealing with for stipends. So right now, when we were submitting, and that conversation with Rick happened today.
Yeah.
So I haven't changed any of that yet, because we haven't finalized where we're going with stipends for us yet. So to start making those changes before we knew what our whole procedure was gonna be as far as stipends, I didn't wanna make all that change yet.
Make sure you talk to Laurie.
It
'Cause
might,
somebody has it posted on the website.
wow, that's interesting.
I saw it there last week and I said, I didn't think that had been,
No, because somebody asked me if I had talked to anybody about it, and I said there hadn't been any reason to yet, because we hadn't made any decisions. We were waiting on what Rick was gonna present as the potential increase on his side for stipends. And I just talked to him today. So,
So if we took over those responsibilities and you took over whatever other responsibilities that you would just sign off as chief, would it make sense to zero out the line item?
I
Being
can't
that
make,
some of that
Zero out
money
line
is
item.
going to, is going to Rick,
Zero out what line item?
the fire inspector's position. Not eliminate the position in case you need to fill that position at a later time.
I still would have to reconfigure that. If you look on part 2 of the addendum A,
Yep.
I would still have to increase that lieutenants to 4, which is what we used to have, and reduce that fire inspector down. So we're looking at,
A net change of 500.
we're looking at a net change of $500.
why do
Right
you,
now.
why would you need to add another lieutenant?
Because that lieutenant's gonna pick up the fire prevention side of that. It's a 2-position title right now. It's a fire inspector and fire prevention education officer. We're taking away those fire inspector duties and potentially giving them to the building inspector, because it makes sense to do that, because the building codes and the fire codes are so closely tied together. But we still have to have somebody that's gonna do the life safety stuff and the school fire alarms and all that. We can't completely get rid of
So,
those
no, this is-
responsibilities unless we give them all to him. But I
Well-
don't think we wanna do that yet.
Well, this is what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm hearing that we're going to take what we're now achieving with the position of, we're paying $2,500. We're going to retain 2,000 of that in the fire, in the,
Bless you.
fire crew, because we're gonna make it a lieutenant. So that's a net savings of $500. But in order to transfer the fire inspection duties to Rick, he's gonna be looking for $2,000.
Potentially.
So that's a net increase of 1,500 for the same job.
Tasks, yeah.
But that fire lieutenant is also going to be a functioning lieutenant, which our inspector is not right now. So our fire inspector does not ride the trucks, he does not pull any of the shifts, he does not cover warden's duties. That fire lieutenant is gonna come back as a fire prevention and a full/slash lieutenant.
But your current fire inspector does fire prevention? I didn't think so. So,
Guess
you
who does it
are,
right now? Me.
so you are creating a new position.
No,
Who does fire prevention now?
I do.
You do.
But we have always run with 4 lieutenants, and so I'm not creating another position. I'm putting back the position that we took away in order to create the fire inspector's position.
We go
It's
back
not
to,
making sense to me yet.
we go back to Becky, it sound, I follow what Becky said. You're taking $500 out of your budget to reduce this task one level for, in vernacular, and we're adding it to another person for $2,000. Is that correct, what you said?
About, I
About.
don't know what the building inspector is gonna propose, but I, that's a number that it seems to be sticking in my head.
No, that sounds a little nuts to me. We're paying 4 times for the same job, 4 times the money for the same tasks.
Except that the job that's being done right now can't be done on the money that we're spending. Which is why we're looking at combining it with the building inspector and the fire inspector.
Okay, the job that we're doing now,
The fire inspector's job right now can't be done in the hours that we've allocated for this captain to do that. So short of reworking this whole thing and showing an increase in a budget for a fire inspector and then making that shift over to the building inspector, we just made that shift to the building inspector without raising our stipends, because we're not looking to raise our stipends.
Meredith, do you either have the amount of hours or the quantity of inspections that are done by the fire inspector on an annual basis?
I am in the process, made that request from him the beginning of this week, and I have yet to see it.
Because that's
So
one of the
that's
things
one
I
of the
want to
things I wanna know
evaluate,
too.
because we have got a preliminary number from the building inspector.
And
on
if you
what
look
he
at that,
did.
he did break it down. Rick did, I'm sorry.
Right, but I didn't know,
Well, my understanding, and I know this is a public meeting, so I'm trying to be very careful here. My understanding is that he has based those numbers on the fact that he has, in this past year, done the bulk of the work.
well, that roughly
And that's
equates to
how he
over
came up with
100
the numbers.
inspections. Would you think that's accurate?
Yeah, between new and reinstalls and school inspections, and we now have to start putting in, places of assembly permits, which we have not done, different
When you
things
say
like that.
reinstall, though, you're referring to a boiler.
Like a reinstall on a boiler or a new install on a pre-propane or anything. He's been doing all of the new building. He's also apparently been doing all of the other ones, or the bulk of the other ones as well. So I'm waiting for the hourly breakdown from my inspector to see what his hours actually reflect before we pay out on his stipend.
See, I was thinking that the reason why we were doing the, call it dual position, was because the building inspector is there at this time,
Yes,
so
he is.
inspect them.
well, I mean, it makes sense, it's just, it's, I think, a dollar and cents thing that
That's what we
we've
really
gotta
played out.
sort out.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and that's why we weren't even ready to bring it here tonight because I talked to him on Thursday at a meeting that I was at, and I came and saw him today. That's the first time we've actually had a face-to-face on it. So my understanding, although that it's on the website, is that we were still in the talking stages on whether this was even feasible. And part of that was whether it was gonna be fiscally possible or not. So we're not even there yet.
And let's,
I mean, I hope we get there, but
I'm not looking for any answer, but I'd like you to think about it and get back to us on it from a long-range perspective. I think it works well now because of the experience of the building inspector with fire, but
Yep.
in 5 years, if the roles change and you bring in somebody that's a building inspector, are we back to, well, now the fire department needs to take over fire inspections?
well, I think, and Rick and I had this conversation as well, and when we talked with Joanne and Lori, we had the same conversation, which was, we had a hard time getting a building inspector for our town for a long time, and that's kind of how Rick stepped into that picture. In some ways, it might be easier to get that position because of that dual role. Because if you look at towns our size, Merrimack, which is a lot bigger than us, Dover's doing the same thing, they have now combined those positions. The next step for that one would probably be the potential of putting it under the responsibilities of the fire chief, because that's where a lot of them are going. And then that fire inspector, fire prevention education officer either become one and that stipend goes up, or they become two and then they all three work together. So that potential is there as well. As a matter of Tom Humphrey made that suggestion that why don't you just do that? I don't think we're there yet.
You mean having the fire department handle the building inspection?
The building inspector would answer to the fire chief, yes. I'm not saying we wanna go there yet.
Yeah.
No, not at all. But to answer your other question, one of the things that Rick and I talked about was that unique position that we have right now, that he is very in tune with both sets of codes. So if we put this together, I think we need to put it together with either an annual or a biannual or a 3-year review, so that if he leaves that position, we need to reevaluate. Do we hire for a building inspector and a fire inspector, or do we try and hire for that dual position again? So I don't think we're gonna put it in and just leave it there forever. I think this is an extenuating circumstance that could work very well in our favor. But it needs to be reviewed down the line. You know, maybe in however many years or next year or whatever, if I'm not the fire chief and somebody else is, maybe they wanna do it. So it needs to have that capability to be reviewed and brought back to, do we want to pull it apart again and bring it under the auspices of the fire chief?
Yeah, how many hours did you allot for a fire inspector? How many hours of professional time?
I don't think we didn't get to that.
How many hours have you allotted in the past?
This is a brand new position this year, so we were kind of going this year on what it might take for him, and then we were gonna set hours. So he's supposed to be submitting his hours to me so that I know, so that we can put an educated guess on it.
So when you said current rates over here, it
Yep.
says fire inspector. How many hours is that? Is that a quarter-time position, half-time position, half-time?
It's a stipend, so it's not an hourly rate.
So how much work do you expect that person to do for a stipend of $2,500?
I don't have those figures for you.
We don't know yet.
Because I have asked him for the amount of time that he has put in this year, in the
Who's
last
that,
6
Rick?
months. No, the fire inspector.
Okay.
I've asked for a breakdown of what he's done for inspections in the last 6 months so that we can pay his stipend. If he's only done a handful of inspections, we're not paying out half of that stipend. We're not paying out $1,500 or
25.
$2,500. Half of
So-
25, $1,250.
So you're
$1,250.
thinking that's probably at the maximum of what you might have to pay for a fire inspector?
Yeah. Well, it is, because that's all we can pay right now, because that's what the stipend is.
So it's $2,500 if he does nothing, or if he
No.
works every
No,
day?
no. It's $2,500 if he does a lot.
That's the
And
max.
it,
What is a
and this
lot?
is where we are with the budget, we've been
We
working
don't
on this
have
with the selectmen
We don't have
too.
a breakdown yet.
We're trying to break it down. The old system that they used to have for stipends for the fire department was kind of
It wasn't,
You
it was
didn't get it, and
ugly.
I didn't get it, so we've been taking a look at it, trying to make some sense out of it to come up with, when can they get the whole amount? When do we have the right to reduce it? How far can we reduce it based on how much they respond to things? And when can we increase it? And there's a lot of legislation that we've been looking at, trying to find out exactly how we can adjust those stipends. Stipends are a kind of a hot issue at the moment.
But David, you said that Rick's done, and helped out the fire department probably 100,
Well, that's on
Inspections or-
on his backup, he's figuring
Right.
100
But
and
100
2 hours a week, $25 an hour.
so right now, the building inspector's done about 100 inspections on top of whatever the current fire inspector's done, so, I mean,
I think he's
No, no,
looking
no.
at
That's
he's
what he's
looking at 100
calculating based
inspections
2007.
at $25 an
For
hour.
annual
oh.
I don't think he's
We
done
don't
100
have all
for
the
us.
numbers yet, so we don't have all the numbers put together yet. We don't know what decisions are gonna be made from that, so we really can't address it.
Which is why
Right
we
now.
didn't do anything with stipends except present exactly what we already had, because we're still in the talking phases with the building inspector on whether this is actually gonna come to fruition or not. And then when it does, we'll adjust our stipends accordingly to reflect that.
Okay.
And that's all I can tell you right now, and I'm willing to do that, it's just we don't know yet, we're still talking to the building inspector.
so if he took over some of those responsibilities and you reduced it to a lieutenant spot, would that lieutenant now become a fire ward also?
We don't have, we don't have fire wards. We have a
Or
deputy, we have
wardens,
deputy ward,
Excuse me, deputy
yes.
wardens, so he would become a deputy warden.
Yes, but our deputy warden's totals will not change. Because currently, we have a firefighter who is functioning as a deputy warden, who will
So
not.
you would just transfer those
Yes.
responsibilities to the lieutenant? Okay.
Yeah, so there is no change in the deputy warden
So we
position.
stay at 5?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Okay, you asked that question? Ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Meredith.
Education and training, we put most of that on hold this year because of the maintenance that we needed to do to the vehicles that were in the station in order to have them meet inspection stickers. And so you'll see in this year's budget that we did not spend much for training. We operated most of that in-house to save so that we could put the money toward the vehicles, because we thought that was the most critical thing this year. Next year, we're hoping to gain one new firefighter, which would be, currently it's $800 to send a firefighter to Fire One. That will go up when the fiscal year changes at July 1st for the fire academy. We have 2 that need to be Fire 2 trained, which gives them those additional trainings in some of the special, assisting special rescue technicalities. That's right now at $550 each. I don't think that's gonna go up very much, if at all. Advanced specialty training, we're trying to put our people through the IFF Fireground Survival class, which teaches them how to get out of tough situations if they get themselves in there. Whenever there's extra special training, RIT training, we probably have half of our department that needs RIT training, which is Rapid Intervention Team. And then we have 1 person that's due on this 2-year cycle for an EMT refresher. And then Two-State Weekend, which is listed as $600, is an opportunity for us to send our officers down to the National Fire Academy. And that's mostly just their travel, because and then there's trying to think of what I think it just went up. It was $90 a student, but I think it just went up to $100 a student to cover that weekend where they can get some extra hands-on leadership training.
Meredith, your travel is under a different line
Yeah.
item, so I just
That-
was
I thought
curious.
No,
That was the
I
fee.
mean the travel, like meals and all that kind of stuff, not the gas mileage, sorry.
So we're paying for class, plus their room and board, plus their meals, and their and
That 100 and whatever includes their meals when they're down there, their room and board when they're down there, and their class.
So the cost of the class, everything is included?
Yes, and then their meals going down, we pay for, and coming back, any incidentals like that. Now, we weren't able to send anybody last year because we spent it on truck maintenance.
I was curious on that, I just went on to read about it, and my understanding is the program is free.
No, the National Fire Academy programs are free if you go down there for 2-week programs, but 3-state weekend,
The 2
there's a
day-
cost for 3-state weekend, the 2-day. I think it's called 3-state weekend now, it used to be 2-state.
Tri-state.
Should be Alabama and Vermont, New
National
Hampshire.
Fire Academy 2-day courses?
Yeah, that's a different thing. Those are funded through the federal government.
The
It
application
says it's
packet
by
may be
the
listed on the
federal and by
website.
the state, and my,
If you
forget
go,
that, my
go on to,
question was gonna be this.
go ahead.
Is that I noticed that they also had one, it was gonna include New Hampshire and Vermont, as if though they were coming up. Is that something that was looked into?
That's what this 3-state weekend is. New Hampshire, Vermont, and they've now added Alabama. Yeah. If you go on the Fire Academy's website, there's probably a link to that 3-state weekend.
But it
Okay.
requires you to go to Emmitsburg,
But it
Maryland.
requires you to go to Emmitsburg, it doesn't
Okay,
come up
that
here.
answers the question, okay.
And how much longer that'll last, I don't know. Sometimes enrollment's down because it's obviously very costly to go. So we kind of weigh the benefits every year based on the classes that they offer, whether it's valid for us to send our people or not. If it's something they've already taken, or if it's something they can get here in state, we're not gonna send them down there. Because it's,
So what's the potential classes you wanna take, has it come out yet?
no, it won't come out until, when did they just finished it? It just finished, it was in August, and it's in August again this next year, so that bulletin won't come out until spring sometime. And then they submit, as you know, they submit a list of classes, and you pick
Yep.
the 3 you wanna go to, and if they don't offer them, they might put you in something you already have. And in my mind, it doesn't make any sense to send people to Emmitsburg for a class that they already have.
Just kinda curious to see that, would it be more beneficial to maybe put somebody else through a fire one, another person through a fire 1 class, or maybe a fire 2 class, or another refresher, instead of sending officers down to Emmitsburg?
Well, I guess it depends on the kind of training we think the department needs. If we have officers that need officer training, and that's the only place they can get it, then it's to our benefit to send them down there.
Okay.
If there are no classes offered that officers would benefit from, like fire ground, command or anything like that, you're right, we may very well be more beneficial to put another person through Fire 1 or PP and SCBA, but those are the things that we look at as those courses come up. We
Yeah.
don't blanket send people.
Yeah, a similar question, given we have so few fires in town. You know, structure fires, I believe, are 5 reported in the annual report. You know, are we picking the courses that are appropriate for the few fires we have and the type of interventions we might have? You know, in this town, basically, my guess is that most of the structure fires are burned to the ground, because that way your people are really not in danger versus making an intrusion to save a house.
We will always go in and try to save a house if we possibly
Why
can.
is that?
Because it's our job.
Preserve
It's our
life and
job.
property.
Well, it's your job to save.
Our first job is preserve life, our second job is preserve property.
Okay, if you just let the house burn to the ground, would that be appropriate or not?
If we're gonna do that, why would we have a
No.
fire department? We might as well
Yeah,
just
well,
not have a fire department.
No, my point is that I think your priority is exactly correct. Your priority is to make sure everybody gets out, hopefully including the pets, the cats and dogs. If the house burns to the ground, it's pretty replaceable, just like crushed cars are replaceable, houses are replaceable.
But that's not the.
Firefighters are not.
It's not the priority of a firefighter.
Let me just say it this way, that if it's ever your house and
Yeah.
we're standing in your yard and it's burning down, you tell me it's okay just to let it burn to the ground?
I would say that.
I don't think
Yeah,
your insurance
I would say burn it to the ground.
Make it your insurance to cover that one.
Which means everything that you own and all your pictures and everything is not worth saving.
But regardless, I mean, the
Unfortunately,
weekend has other,
regardless.
the 2-day class in Emmitsburg has other things to offer besides just building fire.
Well, the other thing it
Yeah.
offers,
So,
well,
yeah.
and when I say fire ground training, that means we're giving them leadership training for any kind of incident. The car accident that we had the other day. Somebody has to be in charge, somebody has to know that chain of command, somebody has to know what they're doing, or everything could fall apart. So whether it's a fire, or it's an alarm activation, or last night it was a carbon monoxide detector, somebody has to run that call and make those decisions. If those officers don't have the training to make those decisions, how can we safely function?
I'm agreeing. How do you do that? Right now, it's by the eyeball method. Who triages that? Because it looks like right now we dispatch everything that's got wheels on it and everybody's around.
That's not
You
true.
have an ambulance service, you have a police department, and possibly somebody else is gonna, how do you triage that?
Right now, what we have in place for the fire department is that we have an alarm system set up through our dispatch center.
Mhm.
So if they take the call, and depending on what it is, that's what they will dispatch. So if there's carbon monoxide, then it will become just a dispatch for our department. So we'll roll our engine and we'll roll our rescue, because we want one group in the building and we want one group to help them out on the outside if something happens. So we're rolling two pieces of
The
equipment.
triage is done by the county?
That would be done, that initial call comes from our dispatch based on what I've put in place for those kind of calls. I want these things to go. If it's a structure fire, then they call it a first alarm, then we're going to get everything from our town, something from Greenville, and something from Jaffrey. If it gets to more than that, then I've based, depending on what we think we need for water, for additional personnel, whatever, then that next tier would go out and more things would come. Most of the time, police and ambulance always go to car accidents because you have to make that decision based on injuries. If we have a structure fire, or what we call the first alarm, which is the potential for a structure fire, the ambulance is always gonna go in case one, there's somebody in that building that's injured, or two, a firefighter gets injured. So we make those
Okay.
calls based on what's going in.
Going back to the weekend, do you only send officers to the tri-state weekend, or
We
firefighters can go too?
try to, and if we're gonna do anything different, we might offer it to people that we're
Senior.
trying to, yeah, senior.
Okay.
Okay, we need to
Yeah,
move on.
we're way,
Guys.
I'm missing
Yeah.
my ballet class. Which is why I wanted it at 6 o'clock.
That I gotta see.
There's two things I need for myself. Why I do it in the woods. 350, we're just changing, we decreased it, to $500. The reason we didn't totally decrease it down to 0 is we're keeping an eye on the, requirements for physicals for firefighters. Right now, the fire academy has a requirement of a physical sign-off from a physician if they're gonna go to any classes.
Have they not suspended that at the moment?
No, they have not. Fire 1 and Fire 2 are still in place, the remainder of them go in place July 1st.
Okay. Does this also include the pre-physicals? To
That's
get
where
onto the
I'm,
department?
that's where I'm going from here. What I wanna do with that money is now begin to start a physical process where new hires are gonna have to have a 1582 physical. And that's $300. So if we take one firefighter on, which is our hope this year, that 1582 physical would be $300.
Meredith, last year I remember under fire inoculations and drugs was something that the fire department needed to get updated shots and whatnot. And this year
It's no longer a requirement from the Nadac Hospital. It was a TB test, and it's no longer required.
TB?
TB, yeah, test.
People in the fire service and EMS are at high risk for TB.
And the hospital,
The first
if we
thing
were
on the
transporting,
US.
the hospital used to require that we had it. So, and that is no longer a requirement.
if that's no longer required, then should we just kind of rename that line?
I was gonna ask you that question. How do we go about renaming that line?
You call
Just
it
rename
something
it?
different, yeah.
Well, I just didn't know if there was a process I had to go through, because
Meredith's driving fun.
What would you like it to be?
Firefighter physicals?
firefighter physicals and, yeah, firefighter physicals, that'll work. I didn't know if we had to go through a warrant article change or
No.
Mother May I or 3 votes of, I didn't know. My first year.
Talk to Joanne. She will make that for you.
Okay. The 360 account we've taken down to 0. And the other thing that we've done in that is we have begun a coordinated effort with Messina High School and their kids to come down and clean the station so that we can get that done as well. So they'll be cleaning bathrooms and desks and emptying trash and things like that. So that's with the,
We have a
With
group of
Wendy's group.
students that I work with, they're in the Career and Transition Program. They're the life skills students, and part of that program is to teach them careers and skills that they could use as disabled students in the future.
Good.
So one of the things we do is come throughout the community and do things.
so they'll be running the
Excellent.
vacuum and
Do
cleaning
you
the
have any more
bathrooms.
time with the chief, or are we just about done? Or I have a nitpicky question.
Well, but she's
Is it
not
for
through her
the
budget
budget?
yet.
Huh?
Is
She's
it on the
not-
budget?
Yes. Tim
Are we on the
mentioned
line
TB
item?
inoculations. I'm wondering, of all the things in the world to pick out of the book, that probably isn't one I pick up. How about tetanus? Are you guys up to date with tetanus toxoid? So do you pay for that, or is that,
We have in the past,
that's, of all the things you might do, that's 1,000 times more important than TB.
Yeah, we do
I'm
keep
assuming
records
that's
on-
why Monadnock doesn't require TB any longer, and that's why they reduced the budget, so I don't think TB is an issue at this point.
Yeah.
yeah.
We can move on.
We do keep records on all of our people on whether they're up to
Do
date.
you
on
require
the
it every 5 or 10, whatever it is? I think it's about 5.
It's 10 years now.
10 years now. So tetanus toxoid every 10 years.
Well, wouldn't that be something that's covered through their?
Most of it's
medical-
covered through their
Their
medical.
insurance.
Yeah.
Well, not my medical insurance, but that's okay. I didn't get there. They don't cover anything.
Equipment maintenance and repair, all we did was do some fine tuning on it, because there's some communication stuff that was in there that really should have gone into the communications line item.
Just, sorry, you're on 430?
I'm sorry, account 430.
Okay.
Uh,
In regards to your upgrade security system, for $1,000,
We're gonna get that done this year, I'm gonna get it done for half of that.
well, that should come out of general government funds, not out of your budget.
Right.
That would become out of general government building fund, so you wouldn't have to budget anything. in
So you're gonna
regards
pay for it?
to-
No,
Well,
Peter is.
Peter's coming.
No, we have an account for general building maintenance, okay, so that's where that would come
That
out
should
of.
come out of that.
So I had that as a comment also.
So I would-
Be down at 2,000 on that.
Well, hold on, so what I'd like to, you have a note here in regards to SCBA service and testing.
Yep,
And as a firefighter in the service, you need this to go into a building.
yep.
So my recommendation would be to move that $1,000 into SCBA service, to increase that to $1,500. So that you can get more packs serviced and tested.
Yeah, because we were gonna start, again, we're trying to eat the elephant one bite at a time, so we're trying to build back up all of these things that need to be maintenance.
I'm
We were
guessing
gonna
that
start at a-
$500 is only gonna encompass probably 5 or
Probably gonna do
6
5,
packs.
yeah.
It says 17 packs.
Well, you have a
Small
total of
portion.
7.
A small
Oh.
portion of our 17.
So
We
you
looked
have
at,
17.
it would cover
18.
about a third of them, so
And
$1,500
how
would
frequently
allow
does
us.
it need to be done?
Are they 5 years?
Because every 5 for hydro testing.
Yeah.
And when was the last time they were done?
It's coming up, I can't give you the exact date, but
Approximately.
it's coming up on close to 5 years,
Well, all of them, they were all done at one time?
I believe so.
But this
Is
also
there a way
includes-
that we could step that so that they're on staggered?
Well,
So you
that's
do
what
so many a
originally we
year?
were looking at, was doing so many a year and then just keeping that rotation going.
Where their budget's going up, I would rather see us take the $1,000 out and leave you on that rotational.
I would too.
This rotation is only gonna get 5 done, I mean, you can get
It's
10
but
done
it's
out of the
5 years.
17.
What if,
The thing is, if you do,
I'm thinking they
5
were done in,
And then you got 12 sitting around
you
with
get 12, you do, even if you're doing them over 3 years, you should be spreading that out over, if it's 5 years, you should be taking the number of packs you have and spreading it out over 5 years. So you do 3 a year.
And what's the difference between the testing, the service, and the cascade service?
Cascade services are in-house Cascade where we fill the bottles.
Okay,
And we also have a Cascade on our rescue that does the same thing if we're on a fire scene. And
Yeah.
then the in-house fills the one on the rescue. The testing is just that 5-year testing. And then the service is if we have anything that has to be repaired. So it gets broken on a scene,
okay.
a hose gets severed,
The bell doesn't go off.
yeah, the bell doesn't go off, the heads-up display in the face mask doesn't go off. Any of that is what the SCBA service is for.
So that's more of an equipment repair?
Yeah.
So we would be providing the firefighters with SCBA's, they would have been tested, they're built, functional.
And the Cascade service also runs a test on the air quality to make sure that it meets the standards as far as we're not pumping dirty air into bottles. And so,
Okay.
so that's an annual test as well. So the Cascade service is an annual. Any gear repairs and that upgraded security, so you want us to reduce that to 2,000? Okay. Vehicle maintenance, tires, the next engine or the next apparatus that's up is engine 4. I did some research on that 7-year tire requirement. It's still there, it's being evaluated under the 1910 standards. But as of right now, the requirement for fire trucks is still every 7 years. So the next one that we're up with is engine 4. And we've already been told by Whalen, who is now doing all of our inspections and maintenance on our vehicles, we've already been told that if we don't do the tires next year on engine 4, it will not pass inspection. So that's our next one up for tires. We did do the rescue this year. Maintenance and inspections are pretty standard. Again, they're all being done by Whalen. The brush truck and the Tahoe are being done by Messinic. And then the rest of these down are repairs that still need to be done to various vehicles. The rear main seal on Rescue 1, the brake lines on Tanker 2. Tanker 2 we've decided to keep in service. I know last year we had some talk about possibly surplusing it out or giving it to the highway department. With the drought that we had this year and the amount of times that we had engines that were down, that piece was able to slide in and take a place on a backup engine. It's still running really well, it's still passing inspection, so I think we're gonna hang on to it. And I did talk to Peter Goey about if he wants to use it next year to flush culverts and stuff, that would be fine as well. So right now, for the minimal cost that it keeps us to get it inspected, it's a pretty good truck to keep on the road. Okay.
So in regards to the maintenance and inspection of your 4 trucks,
Yep, it's $1,000 a piece.
you just have an engine done by Whelan's and it only costs $75 for an inspection? I have a bill sitting at my house that it only costs $75
Yeah, that
for an
was the
inspection.
that was the sticker.
But does this maintenance and inspection include oil changes and?
Right,
Yeah,
the
services and all that?
inspection.
That was
No,
a-
my question is
$75.
that, what's the cost of an inspection for these 4 trucks? $75, right? So I'm just reaffirming, so it's $300 for inspection, and the other $3,700 is for the oil changes and the maintenance. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I wanna know.
These are just little things that still have to be fixed, door hinges and things like that.
The door hinge on engine 3, I thought you replaced a door hinge. Is that the?
We haven't done it yet because we haven't been able to find the right hinge. So we're
Oh, yeah.
working on it. It's a weird size piano hinge.
I thought we got a bill for a hinge.
We did
I thought
get
it
a
was-
We
hinge
did
that
get a
was
hinge
not
that was the
proper
wrong one, and I
hinge.
think
Oh,
we
okay.
returned it,
Okay,
so.
thought I was going crazy there for a minute. I'm like, I'm seeing a hinge here, I remember seeing the bill, so.
So that's vehicle maintenance.
So you're only looking for $1150, but, your line item has $15,000. You're requesting $15,000?
That's because that doesn't cover any unforeseen repairs. This is concrete, doesn't cover anything that might
This is
break.
given. This doesn't account for anything else that might break throughout the year.
Okay.
Seatbelts. Computer services, we kept the same. Some of our stuff is antiquated, but we're gonna make it work as long as possible.
When you say services, are you referring to, the service that we have?
No, not the
No.
Comcast service.
No, I'm referring to the
Gary-
IT person.
Gary Johnson?
Yes.
I really don't know. This was set up there in that thing. I'm not sure what it covers. I would think it would be any replacement of computer parts or,
Printers, I think we took the printer out of there, didn't we?
that was a few years ago, I don't know. I wasn't sure what
Printers,
that is.
printers are considered disposable, so I don't know why you fix it.
It comes out of their line, or out of the-
No, we wouldn't fix it. We
What
wouldn't
is
fix
this for? Computer service for what computer?
We have several, a couple of stations.
We're assuming that that's the cost of whatever the IT has for anything that we need, like when we needed all the stuff set up.
We used to get billed for,
Is this for Greg?
Greg.
That's what I'm thinking, is that we buy a block of
Greg,
time.
okay.
So when a department uses it, it goes against the block of time.
So it doesn't come out of our budget? Huh, good to know.
Unfortunately,
No.
No, not unfortunately, it's good for us.
either way, it's the same talk.
Well, I understand that.
Dues and fees.
And then the computer equipment is listed here as several years old, anticipate repairs needed. Can you just, in a bullet, tell me what you have there for computer equipment?
My computer itself is like 5 years old. It's Dell, I don't know, several years old. The one that's on the officer's desk now is older than that one. We have my printers probably 4 years old at this point, it's starting to act up. We have a second printer over there that's older than that one, all antiquated. We have one laptop that is designated for training.
So you have 2 desktops, a laptop, and 2 printers.
The
Yes.
computer upstairs. and
Your
the-
copy.
And the computer upstairs that runs
But that
the
thing,
system.
well, it
That
runs a
thing's solid.
system, but that thing will, once we upgrade the,
But that all falls under your security system, right?
Yeah.
right,
falls in-
right, but once we upgrade that, that'll be run off my main computer, which is old.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Once the upgrade is
The security
done,
system
the
is
security's-
upgraded?
Right. That upstairs computer that currently runs it will be gone, and it'll be moved over to my computer.
I
The main
think we could
computer
just have
station.
maybe when you get a minute, just break it down and all the computers rather than us try to remember everything.
Yeah, there's, you have an inventory.
We have that list.
So
I
maybe
was
we
just
could-
gonna say, Joanne, where is, Greg had done a list for us of what needed to be upgraded. We still have that list somewhere. We need to take a look at that and see where we need to budget the computers. We have a schedule where we're upgrading them every, I don't know, 5 years or something like that. And, we had so many old ones, we've been doing as many as we can get in. I don't know where it stands now, because I don't know how many we were able to upgrade and get more current. But the goal was to have a rotating schedule
Well,
of,
maybe we can see that when the,
Yeah.
What was the obsolescence at 5 years, 7 years?
I
What did you pay?
wanna say it was 5. Yeah.
Which we must have, one of ours has to be at least 5.
Oh, my, yeah, my phone's
Oh, we
on.
don't have the fire department, we may not have
I-
had the fire
I
department
thought
on
they
it, so.
had new ones.
No, they had got the one laptop last year.
And then what did we do with the, didn't we buy them rather than clean them?
well, we all know
should
that.
do that.
No,
need to do
we got
something
the
with it,
clean one
so can
back.
we just
You got
put
They
it
the
want-
ones
on?
back?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
And
Just saying.
just a comment, why do we replace them every 5 years? I mean, the damn things run forever, in my experience, run forever.
In my experience, they don't.
My experience, I don't run this last 5 years.
Listen,
I don't know how
either.
much.
You know, they don't, honestly, I've got one running XP, 2000 still running, and it's 12 years
Well,
old, still
the-
running.
Yeah, but we still have, we have to remain current with some of our software.
Okay, well,
And you end up creating requirements where the system
We have
won't
a
I got-
manage
I
the
got that.
software.
okay,
Station
so it's
two,
software
spot on.
related, the
Yeah.
machine's the one
Or is
handles
that just a
stuff.
monitor?
That's
Okay.
for the
Yeah.
alarm alarm as well.
We just
Yeah,
had
that's
to
it.
do town clerk because
think that's
the
property
state
owners.
upgraded their
No,
software,
yes, we need to
and ours
replace that.
didn't.
I understand that.
Okay, let's get back to focus, please.
So communication shows as an increase, that's
Before we
because we.
jump to that, hold on, computer services,
sorry.
what I'd like to ask you to do is get a plan going for
For
upgrading
replacement?
yours. Yes.
Okay.
So is that gonna stay where that is at the moment, to anticipate an upgrade? Or,
It
Now,
depends on
do
how
you-
old our
or are
computers
you
are,
gonna
right?
check with
E-
Rick to
No
see
matter what, do you need 3 computers to operate?
Yes.
Or is it that we have 3 and,
Well,
No.
the one that's upstairs running the security system,
yeah,
Is gonna go away,
it's,
that would be
it's
your
like
fourth
last like
computer.
anyway.
but that's our 4th computer. So right now, we have one computer that's Wendy's, the
Yeah.
administrative secretary. She does all of her work, keeps
Nobody
all the
gets in
files
mine.
on that. She doesn't even share her password with anybody. The other one that we have is what's considered the officer's computer. So all
Okay.
of the line officers have access to their own accounts. That's where they enter all their permits, so they on a Saturday will sit there while she's doing something else. So we desperately need those two. Then the other one that we have is the training computer, which is a laptop with an LCD projector, which eventually we wanna hook into the training room in the back, and that's dedicated just to training.
okay.
So sometimes it goes on the road, sometimes it's in that back room, so my short answer would be yes, 3 computers would, and that one that's there will be going away. And then we have a donated computer that's in our fire station right now that's running our spotted dog response system. So technically, we have that computer, it just doesn't belong to the town.
Okay, but could you put that spotted dog on a new system if you had it?
I don't know how you could do that without the wiring, because you have to have access to it in the fire station, not in the office. So
Okay.
it shows who's responding and the officers check on it, so.
And
you have
that,
to have
does
the-
that work fine?
That one's working fine at the moment. I don't know how old it is, but it's working fine.
So maybe if you look on, to develop a plan
Yep.
for,
A long-range plan.
changing out 3 computers.
Well, what I would ask you to do is, we should have an inventory list of those computers somewhere.
I thought we did.
And, yeah, we should, and it needs to, have Greg take a look at it and see what your needs are.
Okay.
You think we should increase that to cover?
Well, I guess my other recommendation is to get rid of the service part and just call it computer. Because services implies something else.
Computer equipment.
And,
You
Computer
need a
support.
referral.
I think they're all called computer in other departments, so,
Okay.
Okay.
I think, it's just my
Yep.
thought.
I'm just thinking to keep things clear in future years, if we have peripherals, we'll know it's
Well, I'm
devices.
just,
If she says she needs a printer,
yeah,
we've got a line item for it.
yeah, just make them consistent,
Yeah.
whatever it is, Joanne. And then, see what the recommendation is for replacement, and I forgot where it was going with that, on that. Any of the services should go to GGB.
So they're
Security.
going there now,
Huh?
they're going there now.
Yeah,
You just weren't
Yeah.
aware.
I know when we need stuff, we email him, so.
so that number will go to 0 until we hear back from Greg,
Which number?
the computer
So
number.
I
It's
thought,
gonna go to 0. I thought we were gonna leave it the same until we heard back from Greg. Because you were talking about increasing it.
from Greg, his services will come out of general.
No, on the
a new-
Equipment.
Okay.
on the equipment.
I'd like to make the suggestion that we plug in $1,000 into that line item.
All right, for one computer,
For one.
basically.
And
All
then
right, yeah, that's
develop
fine.
your plan
Yep.
from there.
Yeah,
We've done it with everything else, so we might
yeah,
be good for us to do it there as well.
okay.
Communications, the increase is because it came out of that other line item.
I think we gotta look at that in more depth at some point, because you really need telephone service down there, correct? Internet service?
Yes, and that was one of the things I talked with Peter Goey about, which was the Comcast bill, because it just hurts my heart to pay that much money for Comcast, but it doesn't seem like we can combine it with anything else. I asked him if there was like a town plan or something where we could combine all of the Comcast, but he said, this building and his building are on the same one, transfer station is on a different one, ours is on a different one.
That doesn't matter, that.
It seems like there should be a way to reduce that cost.
Refresh the memory. What did we negotiate with Comcast? Didn't they add all of the town buildings?
Yeah, and I don't believe the fire department was on it, and we added it.
Right. So, to get you cable, now remember, that's just TV. That was a given from
Comcast.
From
yeah.
Comcast.
So that, when I saw this
$220.
charge, I'm like, wait a minute, all we should be getting is phone service?
And
And
internet,
internet. And if that's what we're paying on a building, I think we need to look at.
that's what I'm saying.
Other
And
alternatives.
that's what I'm saying, I
For
think it's
internet
outrageous,
and-
and
My
I,
guess is you could call
I wish I
Fairpoint and
had
get it
a
for
bill.
half.
if you can find a way to cut it, I'd love it, cause I've talked to Peter about cutting it, I've talked to, isn't there a way to merge it? To me, that's an outrageous charge.
Yeah, I know you can get.
I didn't even get charged that for all three.
DSL.
So we've got 2 phone lines down there, the internet and TV.
But the TV should be free.
Well,
Right,
it
from
should be,
Comcast.
and
Yeah,
hopefully
that's what we
it is.
negotiated, that's what it
Is
is.
it?
I have to look at the
We'd
bill.
have to look at
I really
the bill.
don't know
Yeah.
offhand about looking, because I didn't know that, so I just.
And it seemed to me
Maybe
like
have
there
a lot
must
of
be.
movies on there.
No, let's
Let's not
not
go
go
there.
We've learned some very important lessons in the last few years.
Don't worry, I'm kicking her under the table.
Okay.
I'm kicking her too.
Hey, my mind didn't go anywhere.
So if there's a way to
Let's go.
reduce that, I would love to reduce it, really, truly, I think it's an outrageous cost. And yet, we can't do without either one of them, so we have to have
Has
phones.
anybody ever thought about dialing up Fairpoint and asking them?
Well, I know we can get Fairpoint in areas of the town, and I know the center of the town is one of the ones that does have it. So that, I would hope it isn't when you take a right only, that it does go left. And I don't think that you have any special internet requirements, just making a
fast.
connection, yeah.
I can tell you what it costs. I mean, Fairpoint, for us, residential service, $65. One line, I don't know, that's in 2 lines, probably about 80 or 90, and DSL is 45.
And businesses are usually a little
I'm
more, but.
36.
Huh? Huh? What'd you say,
All right.
So we'll check into Fairpoint.
If I check this bill tomorrow and I'm seeing that we're being charged for TV, I should let someone know.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll check with Fairpoint as well to see if maybe we can reduce it through them.
Okay, so let's continue here now.
Yep, the 560 account is just dues and,
So
I'm
you're,
still on 530 here.
oops, sorry,
you are?
Yeah,
Hold on.
I'm
530.
trying to,
Go ahead.
communication. There is an addendum for all of the radio stuff that goes in that, if you look at addendum in the back.
Very last page.
Addendum B, communication equipment needs. Again, we're trying to build back up, we basically have pretty much no pagers, so we're trying to start a rotation of replacing some pagers and getting our stock back up. Some of them are starting to break, and of course, technology has come a long way.
Who are you going through?
Beltronics.
I would.
We looked
Some-
at going to, we looked at Southwest and they can't do our pagers.
Yep.
So that's why we went back to Beltronics.
There are some alternatives, but I'll have to get names for you because at the county level, we swapped from Beltronics because of the price, so we went to someone else, so.
Well, one of the things that we're looking, if you see pager programming, which could technically come down a little bit, if you look down at the bottom where it says miscellaneous, we're looking at buying the equipment to program our own pagers and our own radios. Because over the years, it will save us, so we
a
don't have to.
lot of money. It will save us a lot of money. We're paying a lot for them to come in and program.
Yeah, so we want the
We'll recognize
capabilities
that
of
too.
being able to program ourselves.
So,
So if
so
we
right
buy
now,
the software.
Right now, Beltronics is coming to us, right? We're not going to Beltronics?
It depends on
Depends.
what we're having done. If it's a radio install in a vehicle, then they're usually
Then
coming
obviously they
here.
could come out.
If it's pagers, we're taking them there.
Okay.
And so we're looking to start doing the programming. So the programming under the Motorola Minitors, which says $60 each for just 10. $10 each for just 6. And then down in the radios, the Motorola radios, where it says programming $40 for each one.
We need 3 of them
And
done.
we need 3 of them done. We're looking at buying the package to program them ourselves and save that money. So that line items in essence will be reduced by $180, which we just caught tonight. That was my catch on.
So the.
So what's your new?
We want one or the other. So if we reduce that communications line by $180, that will cover the decrease in those 6 pagers and 3 radios being programmed. And a lot of our pagers need to be reprogrammed depending on what we do with that water rescue task force, because they have that tone in there and we're not using it anymore.
I'm sorry, the reduction was what, 180?
180.
So you're 5320 on that line item?
And actually, you can reduce it by another $80. You guys are gonna remember that I'm reducing stuff, right?
Right up until we say we agree.
Reduce it some more, yeah.
So I'm down by
Where it says
250.
radio strap under miscellaneous, you can reduce it by that as well. That's a misprint that didn't come out when it was. So we're now gonna be reducing by
260.
260.
And the reason we
A
don't use
total of
smartphones
260?
is? The reason we don't use smartphones is?
The reason we don't use smartphones is we don't have smartphone coverage through this entire town. I go around on Main Street by Grace and Caleb Shaw's and I have no cell phone coverage.
Missy,
Um,
that.
I have an
Well,
iPad
right here
that-
and tell you I got 1 bar.
I have an iPad that I use, that's my own, that I use for the fire department, and there's a lot of times I can't use it on the scene,
Okay.
so that's why. We do use them for our initial response, for spotted, it's called Spotted Dog, which they can say that they're responding and whatever, but it's not a reliable enough system for us to.
So your
use,
total
we-
reduction is $260
On the,
off of what's here now?
And I gotta write that down so I remember. Are you writing that down?
Of course I am.
So just so I'm clear, you're reducing from 5,500 to 4,240?
5240.
5240.
Or excuse me, 50, yeah, that's what I wrote down here.
Damn.
I'm sorry, I typed it in correctly.
That was smooth, but Wendy doesn't miss numbers.
I thought you said reduce 3 times. So, is there 3 different things that we reduced?
Yes, it's gonna be the radio strap.
The radio strap of
miscellaneous,
$80
portable programming, and then pager
and the
programming.
pager programming. So if you look under pages in the addendum, it was $60 and then
That
one was
miscellaneous
$120.
box at the bottom.
And then the very bottom where it says miscellaneous, the very last
Keep
line
going.
says radio strap.
Oh, that's how,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that 80 would be disappear along with the radio programming and pager programming.
Okay.
560? Pretty much cut and dry as far as these are our annual dues for the Chiefs Associations that we belong to, the NFPA membership, Monadnock Chiefs.
So your Monadnock security monitoring fee would disappear, because that's also
Yeah.
the government, general government buildings?
Then why did we get billed for it this year?
We got
that
a bill,
done
we
this
got the
year.
bill this year.
We paid it.
Thank you. A few more
You
percent
are
every-
so welcome.
Don't send us any other ones though, because she doesn't miss it.
Can I
So-
ask what SMFAA with $1,000?
Go ahead. That one's you, that's the formula, what's SMFAA?
So it should be
That's what they have on the top saying SMFAA.
it should be Sauhegan Fire Mutual Aid Association, it should be SFMAA. It's the annual dues for, Sauhegan Chiefs and our foam contribution to the foam bank. Cause there's a regional foam bank over there that we contribute to as well that runs through the, Sauhegan Hazmat team. So we pay into that every year. And the others are pretty much cut and dry. So are we taking out that $396 and you're gonna pay that?
Yes.
That's awful kind of.
Peter.
That's really nice of you.
We're not paying it, Peter's.
Oh, I don't care who pays as long as I, so we can reduce that line item by $396.
Trying to see what Tim gets before I say a number.
248,350.
Don't worry, I'm keeping track of all the numbers.
Yeah, I'm not the
What?
official
248,
scorekeeper.
350? Is that what you got?
248,350.
Nice job.
Alright, so.
Hi, anything else in that one?
No,
Yeah, that one caught us off guard this year because we got the bill and we paid it, but we didn't have it in our budget. That's why it says new fee in 2016.
And we didn't realize.
Because we didn't, so obviously we weren't supposed to pay it.
oh well.
But we did. It's all right. Mileage, we're gonna decrease down where the mileage for, one, because the mileage costs have come down from the federal rate, and we're assuming they're gonna stay down at least for a while.
Well, can I ask a question, why we're paying for the mileage if, I presume you'd be using?
We are, that was just where I was going.
Thank you.
The potential is there, so long as the Tahoe is running, is that they would take the Tahoe. The
Yeah,
only time they might not take the Tahoe is if there was a reason where we were gonna send more people than the Tahoe could hold. But the plan would be to take the Tahoe, so then this mileage wouldn't exist. Which is part of the reason we decreased it. And then we're looking at sending 1 or 2 people, possibly 3 people to class, and if we sent 2 to Fire 2, they'd be traveling together.
so a $200 line item would cover that?
But this mileage would also
Yeah.
include like trips to the fire academy if need be for other classes, like weekend classes. And
Yeah.
they had to go to SCBA and,
We still think we can do it with $200. Because most of the time, we're sending people in a Tahoe. So if somebody's going to the, to
Fire
Concord, to the
academy or
fire
whatever.
academy,
they're taking the Tahoe.
somebody's going, like, Gordon went to Fire 1 in Ringe last year, he took the Tahoe.
Okay,
And that's gonna be our go-to to start
should be
with.
the mantra.
Yeah,
So David, you're saying reduce it to 200 instead of 500?
Yeah.
we already did. Oh, you're gonna reduce it to 200?
That's what you just told
You've
me.
got a budget of
Right.
500.
You just said
Just told them that
Yeah.
worked.
I was reading that we already had 200. So you're gonna cut it more than in half?
Because, let me go back to your sheet. The trip to Emmitsburg was 513. And I
Yeah.
figured, well, you're gonna have to gas up to Tahoe. That's why I said $100, and then you said, well, you're gonna be going to Concord.
Remember what we spent for Gordon to go to things when he took his own vehicle?
I got some nice check when I did it.
I'm gonna tell you, our mileage
40 or
right now,
50
you're
bucks a
not
month.
going.
Yeah, and that's why that
You don't
54,
want
the
this
board's
answer
gonna.
right now, cause our mileage right now is at 99.90.
You
Yeah,
spent
your cost a date's
$100.
been $100.
But that was only, yeah, one person.
So 200. General supplies went down. Part of it, again, was that transfer to the 530 account. So, we just put stuff where they belong.
So my only question is, I guess I just need explanation. So your EMS supply miscellaneous restock items, you just list that as restock.
Numbers are changing.
What are you, gentlemen?
Can we just have one conversation, Paul, please? Can we just have one conversation, because we can't hear over you? If you're worried about the numbers, Brian, we're keeping a strict list. We haven't even approved really as we've gone along, so we're gonna have to review these numbers briefly when we're done. And then,
Send it to us.
Joanne will have a final update of what the
So
selectmen are
we won't-
recommending.
We won't have a bottom line tonight.
No.
No.
Other than having to check the Comcast.
No, because we still need to
Well,
do the,
we have that and then just, check, check the company.
and the stipends. We're
And the
not gonna have the
stipends.
stipends.
Right, but we've got a budget in there for the stipend.
Right. Do you have an
Our
approximate?
preliminary.
Yes, yes,
You'll have a preliminary.
yeah, yeah.
So can you just explain what is coming out of the EMS supply limit that Sahegan Valley would not restock for you?
We buy any supplies we need. If we're using bandages on the scenes, if we're using tape,
Defib replacement
yeah,
pads.
defib replacement pads.
So if you're using them, why is Sahegan Valley not replacing them as our primary service?
Different machine.
Not the same
And
equipment.
it's not compatible.
Okay,
They wouldn't be able to replace our pads because they don't have them regularly, they'd have to order them, so.
So
Well, they're not.
We'll,
not
we'll replace
compatible
whatever,
anyway.
we'll replace whatever they use
so the
that we can.
pads aside, they would replace anything else that you would use on scene? Bandages, crevettes, ice packs, those sort of things.
We don't
Provided we
gen-
transport, because
We don't
otherwise we can't
generally,
build.
yeah, we don't generally go after the restock from them unless they transport and we snag everything.
Right.
But if we're on
We
the
still
scene
need to
and
have
they
a
don't
certain supply of
transport,
stuff.
then we're responsible for that equipment. I mean, it's not like, open cash, go down and help yourself kind
No,
of
no,
thing.
I was just looking for, I mean, it said restock, so I know when,
So it might
Just if our
be,
stock's getting low, if we've used it on a scene and we've noticed, we can restock it. Our gloves come out of there,
Yeah.
that's a big expense for
Yeah.
us.
EpiPen. Probably Narcan, as we.
No, you should-
No, Narcan's
that stuff
free.
should be replaced by
Narcan's
Sahegan
free.
Valley.
That's
No,
hospital.
it actually shall be replaced by
That's
the
what
hospital,
hospital.
that's all taken care of by them.
That is not-
If we, we'll replace it if they use it on scene, and then we'll just get the replacement from the
Regardless of
hospital.
transport or not.
But there's times
No,
that,
no, that's their, they'll have to make those arrangements.
there's times they're on a call that one of the guys gets, I don't know, hay nail, I don't know.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
put a band, I mean, we have
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
replace.
Yeah, you're not asking,
supplies.
you're not asking Sagan for a single Band-Aid, I get it.
You know, that cold pack, stuff like that, doing
Right.
rehab for,
Right,
Fire,
exactly.
okay,
Space blankets,
that's all I want to know.
Okay,
carps, consumables, carps, cups, Gatorade, all that kind of stuff. We just, as an example, the other night at the car accident, we used 3 tarps, we had to replace them all. So, it's kind of and then if we take money out of the phone bank, we have to replace it. So that's what the $500 is for phone. We good on 610?
yep.
Yep.
620. Obviously, our printer toner cartridges are pretty expensive.
Not that expensive.
Where are you getting?
Oh, yeah, they are. We replaced them this year off of Amazon for quite a bit of a savings, and they were still outrageous.
Mhm.
They're $400.
What do you have, at some point, you just,
They're
You
big,
need
but
just,
they're.
just email me what you have, cause I,
Yeah,
Just let the
that's,
oh, okay.
you'd be surprised what you can buy for $20 that the store wants $124.
Okay,
Get us a place to look at, we will look. We kept electricity the same, because right now we're pretty close to what we've estimated.
Minus what I've been able to save in the electric bill?
Actually, our electric bill last month went up.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Thanks for
Well,
helping,
I
Tim.
understand we're going into the winter months, but
No, this was before the winter month, so this was September's bill,
That's
we've
Our
went
bill
up,
is
we've
old.
pulled meters, we've changed lights.
and
we've
electric
done-
bill went up,
Electric bill went up.
which kinda hurt. We thought we were saving a lot of money,
I still haven't done that
electric bill went
comparison
up.
for I've been busy with this, so I
Have
haven't
you,
done the
did
comparison.
you normally negotiate a rate for the power from the town?
No,
Is there some reason we don't negotiate a rate?
right, because we don't.
Seems to me there's a huge difference between negotiated rates and what PSNH charges.
Right.
We're looking into electricity,
Hmm?
we're looking into electricity
That-
townwide.
That's a better answer.
Yeah.
The, what kind of impact did you see when that, high pressure sodium light was removed? Do we recognize savings there?
The big
I
street
think
light
the
out the
initial
front.
Big
bill-
street light and and
I
I'm
think the
thinking,
initial bill went down,
but I'm thinking we
but it's
did
now
that,
gone back up again.
we did the lights at the entrance and we took the
Tim-
road across the street off.
Tim has asked
One
me to do
of
a
the-
comparison from last year, the last few years, and I just, with all this, have not had 2
I
seconds
understand.
to look at it.
And one of the issues that we have is trying to tweak that motion sensor light on the right-hand side of the station.
Yeah.
Every time I go by, it's on,
And I
but it's
think,
on a motion sensor,
I think
so.
PSNH is getting ready to do a rate increase anyway, so.
And I'm thinking of taking that other building off that we would have saved there. 'cause
You
that
would
would've
think
been-
so, because.
That's another meter.
I mean,
So
that
that's
was what,
another
about
service.
$35, $36 a month just to leave that meter on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when Wendy told me last month that the electric bill had gone up
For the station.
for the station, that was pretty surprising. And we were careful on running even the Cascade, which turns out didn't
Put
really make a
everything on one
difference,
meter, finally?
We're working.
And
that's what
Peter
we're looking
hasn't,
at.
Peter has put a call into the electric company to get a rate differential on whether we convert that 3-phase down to a single phase for Cascade, but,
Mhm.
he hasn't gotten anything, and what he seems to be getting from the electrician is it's gonna be so outrageously expensive, we'll never recoup our initial
Right.
outlay of costs.
Right.
So I really don't think it's gonna be worth us doing that.
And I'm looking at our cost to date of less than 3,200. So based on that, you must be running somewhere around $200 a month.
Somewhere around.
Mhm.
300.
So would 3,500 cover you?
You said there's rate increases going up?
At least
That's
that's
why-
the stuff I'm getting in the
That's
mail
why
for
we left it, 'cause
residential,
we
is
had
that
heard
there's a
that the
potential
rates
for
were
it to
going
go
up.
up.
Yeah, that's kind of why we left it where it was, because we were over, I mean, we were 4,500 last year,
We're gonna be close.
2015.
And that was with a mild winter.
Nextera is, I think Nextera is 30% less.
We got $700
I'd like to leave it where it is
estimated.
and see if we can reduce it over the course of the next year and then look at it again, being that we still
Yeah.
things that we're
'Cause we
we're
have an
trying
est-
to do to reduce it, so.
We have an estimated cost for the anticipated remainder of this year of $700 for 2 more months. That's $350 a month. Just based on last year's electric, which I know will go down a little bit, but we're coming into winter, we've gone through the time change, so if it
Alright,
shoots
well-
up in those winters.
What are the big power consumers at the fire station, what else are doing now?
Lights.
Hmm?
Lights.
Well, all the trucks
I
need to be
did put
plugged
in
all
a
the time,
presentation
so.
to Peter to look at changing out the lights in both the office and the station, to
So-
more efficient lights.
I'd like to leave it just the way it is and then see if we can reduce it over the next, over in 2017 and then look at it again
Okay,
and get a better understanding of what it is.
let's go with that.
625, the postage, the heat.
Heat.
624. Right now, it looks like our total expenditures for 2016 are gonna be 5,100, so we left it at 6,000, not knowing what. And I know you sent us the fuel rates but we don't have a breakdown of how many gallons we've used in a year.
And we don't know
Who
if
keeps
it's,
track of that?
I
You
don't know, we don't,
You don't
so,
see the bill?
we see all we do is sign off on the cost, it comes with a whole bunch of lines, but it doesn't show
Peter probably
usage,
has it.
so.
okay.
So that's why we didn't change it, was because we don't know what our fuel consumption is, we just went on
No,
dollar
we didn't know if
wise.
the figures went up or down either, because we didn't have last year's rates.
Well, the board should
We
have
did,
handed
yeah.
out to you what to be figuring
They-
for.
Yeah,
She
but
said
we
she
don't know
got
how,
that.
we got it, but we don't know how many gallons we used.
So when we're talking about Peter, are we talking about Peter,
Peter Going,
Going.
the road agent?
yeah,
Yes, DPW director.
he's in
Whatever.
charge of the maintenance on
Whatever.
all the buildings.
He's, taking care of all those, good to know.
I just met with him last week about improvements on the station.
Remind me.
Postage we decreased
Rates.
to $25, because we're just not mailing things out like we used
Throw
to.
it on the post office box.
And we also got rid of our post office box, because we had no use for it, there's no reason why we can't pick up our mail here.
Okay,
Thank you.
635 fuel account, again, we don't have the numbers on the gallons that we used last year.
Somebody's gotta calculate that. That we can't help you with.
Maybe we should ask Peter.
I mean, where are you going to get gas?
Over to Hafner's.
I mean, you getting a sheet with
The wax.
the Wix card? I mean, you're getting those sheets, don't they say how many gallons you put in the truck?
Sure they do.
okay, so,
So we'll figure that.
yeah, you need to calculate out your
Yep.
usage.
We didn't have
But our
those.
call volume was down this year too, so the trucks have not gone out as much as they in the
That's-
past too.
That's okay, you need to account for that to a certain extent.
Right.
And we didn't have those numbers when you got this original report, and then I didn't follow up on it, so,
Alright.
my bad. Books and periodicals, remain the same. This year we were over a little bit because we bought the new editions of the NFPA 1 and life safety codes. But I don't see it going up consistently in the following years.
Okay?
Can you just hang on a second?
Yep.
No?
We're on a roll here, on a roll.
Okay, thank you.
The 740 account, we increased by $1,000, and we've broken it down. The thermal imaging camera is a 3-year lease, which we were supposed to start last year, but because we thought we were out of money, we didn't. But we're starting it this year. That was that agreement that we have one for the engine, and we're putting the second one in the rescue for that second crew that's going in.
I thought on that, last year, my memory recollection was they were looking to see what monies was left over in the budget to purchase one.
And we did purchase one.
Okay.
But then the second one was going to be a lease, and we were gonna make that first lease payment based on if we had any money left. There was a discrepancy between what we thought we had
I
left.
Remember a
don't
second
remember a
one.
second one.
Oh, yeah,
I remember them asking
Oh, yeah,
about it,
there
but
was a
not that it was
presentation
gonna
for a
be-
second one.
I do.
Yeah,
Now,
thank you.
now, you already had one, correct? Prior
Yes,
to the new one?
which is on its last legs.
Okay, but you had one.
Yeah.
You did get the new one, or you
Yes,
did not?
we did get the new
You
one.
did get the new one. So you need a third one to replace the first, or you need a third one for 3?
We're gonna put until the old one, until it dies.
Yeah.
We're going to put it in, right now it's gonna run in engine 3. So it'll be on that third crew that would take it if they needed it. Or it'll go into the command vehicle for whatever reason.
But essentially, this new one that we'd be getting under the lease would be replacing that because its technology's kind of out of date and it's.
If you could see the
But
difference.
does it work for you if you go in, does it do what you need to
No.
do?
It marginally makes a definitive on if there was a person there, you might be able to guess that there's a person there.
Okay,
Or that there's fire in the wall. The others, they're so much higher in
and what would it cost you to buy it?
capabilities. 10,000?
well-
3, 6, 9.
Yeah, 12.
You're buying it for 7,800, but
Wait a minute, it's
I believe it's.
26, 26 and 24. 26.
I believe there was initial down payment of it, and then there was a lease payment each year, and I think it was a total of a $12,000 camera.
Yes.
You're gonna have to explain that one.
I don't have all the details in front of me, that's just.
All right, we
what
got
I
a
understand.
$2,600 line item for a lease. How long is the lease for?
3 years.
Okay, so that's gonna be $7,800.
Mhm.
You're saying it's a
We're
12,000?
putting $3,000 this year out of this year's budget down on it, so it's 10,600.
Okay,
Yes,
so yes.
yeah, the 3,000's already come out of 2016.
So this is gonna be the second payment.
So this would be the second.
No.
We've got the down payment of 3,000, this is the
And then
first
there's a
lease payment.
3-year lease after the down payment. So 3,000,
Times 4
26,
years.
26, 26.
Yes, is my
Price of
question.
camera.
Yes, is my
11,000, it's
question.
right around 11,000.
It strikes me as a mighty pricey camera.
There.
Yeah.
It's
Me too.
not
Yes, well.
it's not a camera to
It's not
take
a-
pictures with.
It's
A
a
thermal.
It's a thermal
imaging.
imager that
And
finds.
I understand, I'm sorry if I did misunderstand
No,
it.
that's okay.
But, you know, the FLIR makes a lot from $2,000 on up to substantially more than you paid, so I'm wondering how you picked that one.
So the different-
No, Sorry?
Sorry, the difference between a standard FLIR that you can buy just by, going on Amazon or Walmart, these cameras are designed for, to stand up to the temperatures that, and the harsh conditions that we put them in. Water resistance, intrinsically safe, and then just the heat temperatures as well. And they're more geared towards the fire service versus an industrial purpose.
So you have one that's, the one I have is for industrial use,
Right.
which costs a fraction of that.
Right.
But can it stand temperatures of 2,000 degrees?
I don't think so. And nor can the person holding it stand it either, so, there's no point in
That's why
having
we
somebody
need
sitting at
special
2,000 degrees.
And do you need more than, and I'm not a firefighter, so I'm gonna preface that. Do you need more than one?
Yes,
So multiple people? going?
because if you've
Okay.
got 2 crews going in, first floor, second floor, each group's gotta have a camera.
That's fine.
And that's, yeah. Stabilizer equipment, we bought stabilizer bars, and we're looking to increase those so they can, increase the capabilities of what they do for stabilization. So these are caps and things that will allow us to be able to actually stabilize a vehicle that's potentially off the ground on one side or the other, as
Yes.
opposed to the ones we have right now, basically just stabilize anything that's on the ground. So we're adding pieces to the system that we already have. The Storts gated Siamese, we're looking at changing the way that we are working on already, changing the way that we fight fires as far as the water that we bring to the scene. We've always used porta tanks in the past. We're gonna start using those less and use more toward what's called a rural water hitch. And in order to do that rural water hitch, you've gotta be able to have some kind of appliance down on the ground that tankers would then come in and tie directly to, as opposed to dumping their water into a porta tank. So it's fairly cheap money for the capabilities that will give us, because we'll be direct feeding to the engines, as opposed to dumping it into a tank and then having to refill and empty and all that stuff, so the time in cleanup is a lot better, the wear and tear on the trucks is a lot better, and it's a pretty easy concept to grasp. We can do it for wildland fires with a smaller Siamese, and it just seems to make sense to kind of standardize it across.
I mean, we've been doing it,
Yeah.
as a firefighter in the next town over, I mean, coming over here, we've been doing it probably, the last 6 months, 7
Yeah.
months, so.
And it's really
And
made a
it works
difference.
out very well.
Because what we used to get in the past was the incoming truck would come in, dump all the water, and then there was no way, our tanker would come in, dump all the water in the porta tank, there's no way to get it to the engine that's up the driveway. So this eliminates that whole process, so. Miscellaneous appliances, we haven't replaced anything as far as gate valves, master stream appliances, anything like that in the last 10 years, so we're looking at which ones of those might need to be replaced.
Would that include the gaskets and anything else?
That
you would
includes
need for
all of
those?
that stuff, yep. We need to buy more hose. We bought, the standard for, the NFPA standard for hose is 10 years. We now, out of just under 4,000 feet of hose, have 300 feet that's compliant, and that's because we bought it this year. Everything else is older than 10 years, which doesn't meet the standard, which means that if it lets go at whatever pressure is going through that 4-inch hose, it's gonna kill somebody. So we're slowly trying to get that onto a rotation of replacing, so that once we get that in the system, we'll just keep replacing 3 or 4 links every single year, instead of trying to come and do 4,000 feet at the same time.
But it's
So
not
we-
just if it blows, I mean, some of it, over time, it deteriorates.
Oh, it just
and
deteriorates.
starts getting holes in it and
Holes,
those sort
yeah.
of things. So-
And we did all our own hose testing this year in order to save money, so that we knew where our baseline was as far as all of our hose. We took out of the stuff that was out of service, we replaced some of it with new stuff, and then now we're slowly gonna keep replacing that stuff so that it's on a rotation. And we'll be dating that hose so we know exactly what the date is on each one. Floating strainer, we're looking at, I've been talking with Peter Goey about the possibility of putting a dry hydrant on the causeway. Right now, there's one on the bridge. The problem with the bridge is it impedes traffic, first of all, to that road, and it has a lot of weight sitting on that bridge if we're gonna tie in. He seems to think we might be able to put that dry hydrant on the causeway, and if we can, then we probably will take that floating strainer out, but until I know that.
What
Part
are
of
you
the
talking,
reason-
Old Country Road?
River.
Right on River Road, on the causeway. We
Okay,
always fill
yeah.
right there at the side, we're looking at putting a dry hydrant there. What we found this year was with the drought, when the water level kept dropping, and the road was higher because they had paved it, we didn't have access to the water without putting another extension on. And then what happened was that hose just sunk down into the muck. So we were looking at putting a floating strainer on there so that that would pick that up off the ground, it wouldn't be sucking up dirt into our,
I'm just trying to think, you're thinking that we're gonna put a dry hydrant in out Waterloo?
that's what we're hoping.
Really?
Yeah, he said he thought it was possible, so we'll see.
We're gonna let you deal with DES first.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I left the floating strainer in here.
Okay.
8 pairs of boots, 10 pairs of gloves, which is what we did last year, and 10 Nomex hoods, so that eventually we'll have everybody replaced.
So what are bunker boots?
But
So what are bunker boots?
they're actually fire boots,
The fire resistant.
structural boots.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are not included in that PP and SCBA that comes out of that warrant
The warrant
article,
article.
the 12,000.
Is that strictly just
That's,
the jackets and pants?
yeah.
But you can't make that replacement in this, out of that warrant article?
No, because that's only designated to be just the gear, which is pants and coats.
Did,
And
do you
we-
know what the actual wording was in there?
I remember going through this last year too.
We
tried-
just looked at it tonight. We just looked at it tonight.
That was like an hour and a half.
Well, the reason we looked at it tonight was because I don't know if I have to resubmit that warrant article again, because it says it's the first year of a replacement, but it doesn't say this is a 3-year expenditure. So I think we have to redo it again. That's what I'm thinking. If so, to answer your question, if we can take them out of there, then we're gonna have to increase that. There's not enough money in there to do that. We're not gonna have enough money for the 3rd year of that plan. We've gotta increase that. We've gotta increase the monies that are going into that. We wanna increase it to 75, but it isn't gonna cover boots if we put them in there. So one way or another, we have to buy boots.
I don't know.
I
how-
just,
Between,
fire protection equipment,
Yeah, I think it's fire protection equipment. I think boots could go in
yeah,
there.
and how do you, what made you say that you wouldn't have enough money?
We just spent, because it's just about $2,000 for a set of just pants and coat. So if you look at that, what's left in that
So how
capital
many
reserve
pants and-
account, there's not enough money for that 3rd year.
How much money do you think's in that capital reserve account? I'm showing just under $28,000. And unless you got another crew of firefighters to outfit,
So
You haven't
this
got the
year
bill for
was,
This year, have you?
this year
Excuse me?
was,
Have you gotten- I don't think you've gotten the bill for this year's yet.
how much did you say is left?
Have you?
27863.
But it might not
pennies.
be coming. It might
It
not
might
be.
be reflected yet.
So this year was 12,000.
You spent 12,000? Okay.
For 8 sets of gear.
Yeah, which we did well on, because we negotiated a deal.
But that was only pants
That's only
Yeah.
pants and
And
jackets, correct.
And how many sets of turnout?
Yeah, we have
gear
no
do you need?
withdrawals for this year.
No, they're coming though.
Yeah,
I think we
that's
just.
okay.
We just got the
processed
gear
it.
last week, so you can't possibly, well, you could possibly.
But they have to go, it hasn't
We're
processed.
not that fast.
But I think it came up here because we didn't know, we tagged it to Roger on that it should come out of that warrant article money.
But if you spend 12, that's still gonna leave us with 15 in there. And you're only looking at 3,000 or 2,000, whatever those boots were.
No, but
No,
he's
no, no, no,
looking
no.
at.
We've got a
that's what we
3-year
were-
plan in place to replace everybody's
So
gear
she
at the
needs
fire station.
36,000.
So I need
to replace
36,000,
the
there's
gear.
not 36,000
Wait a
in there.
minute. If we're gonna get into that, when was the last time gear was replaced? And it was recent.
It was recent.
Yes,
No,
yes.
All gear or some?
we had,
Some,
we had some new
Yeah,
people
we're
come
supposed to all be
on.
on a,
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and we didn't.
and what?
We did not. We were supposed to, but we didn't.
This is why you're short.
This is, yeah, so we had some new people come on that we bought gear for, yes. So there was new gear issued last year or the year before, I think there were 3 sets.
Yeah.
This is now to replace everybody that right now is 10 years. So everybody as of this year, with the exception of the people that just got new year, are no longer compliant.
Real simple. How many firefighters?
24,
24. How many have new gear as of this year?
8.
8. So you have 16 left to purchase it for. The 16 all have gear that's 10 years and older.
Mhm.
So you need another 32,000, roughly.
Unless gear goes up in the next 2 years. So roughly, yes.
Rough numbers.
So we know we're short in that capital reserve account, right?
Well, you got
It'll be
28,
close because,
28 plus whatever you add.
yeah,
No.
we're doing
We
it
bought
just like
8
we
this
did
year for
5,000.
12,000, we,
But how much did you put in this year?
5.
5.
So you got,
Okay, so you put in 5 for this year, 5 for next year, 5 for the year after, that's 15,000. You had,
So we may be okay then.
right,
But if I'm not mistaken, that account is also used for SCBA, for purchasing new SCBA.
See, that's the next thing we have to start
Uh,
looking at, is because we're coming up to those packs being out of is
And-
that
So, I mean, if
10
anything,
years, it's more
It's
than
every
that.
10 years, I believe.
Have we not been maintaining anything?
the problem is there's.
That would be a question
With the
I
NFPA standards in the
would
fire
rather not
services,
answer.
there's a lot of requirements that.
We
everything
have
can
been
only be in service
maintaining
for so
everything
many
since I
years.
became fire chief in March,
And-
how's that for an answer?
But it seems like we have no tires on the
Clean
trucks,
test.
we have old hoses,
Clean
old
test.
gear.
Yeah, really.
What have we been maintaining? That's where my question was going.
I
And I can see
don't,
the
I don't
dilemma
have,
you'd be in if everybody with everything that's old.
Part of the problem, at least with the SCBA's go, we got those off of a grant the last time. So they were all purchased in one round. So as far as kind of replacing them every, having a rotation with that, it didn't make sense to go ahead and, right off the bat, rotate them out of service. But I can't really give you much of an answer on anything else.
I'd love to give you an answer. My answer is gonna be that since I became fire chief, we have begun to maintain everything. And I don't know before that, I really don't, and I'd rather not speculate.
so
But we are duly trying to get back on track.
I guess we all had a question in regards to how the warrant article was written. Says, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000 for the purchase of a minimum of 6 sets of turnout gear and to authorize a withdrawal from the fire department protective equipment capital reserve account established for this purpose.
So it's
But
protective
that's
equipment.
not really the turnout.
Yeah, that was,
question.
I was
The
looking for the
question
actual
is
warrant article that was
that
established
established
at
the
capital
account.
reserve.
Yeah, that
I
was
don't know
way
if
back.
anybody limited to say,
Yeah, I don't know.
Protective equipment or turnout gear.
We'd
You
have to look back
read
and find
the-
out what year that
I
was.
think you're probably looking at 30+ years, because I
Yeah.
looked for something else. and
but I gotta
remember seeing
believe
that.
protective gear would include boots.
I think
Well,
last
we
year,
were
I
like-
think last year, again, if we go over the minutes, because I remember
We had this,
that
Yeah,
the
we did.
boots were not included,
they weren't
The-
covered
the-
under that
no.
category.
So maybe if we just go over the minutes. and
Actually, I
see-
think the minutes are gonna reflect that you thought that the boots were part of the $2,000
No, I
pants
think
and
that
gear.
the boots are part of the actual, what that capital reserve can be used from.
We'd also
Because we
like
have
to be able to
chosen
start
not
looking.
to use it for that is a different thing.
We'd like to be able to look at it long-term and start saying, if that's the way it's worded, we should be putting money in for CBA packs, because those are
So
gonna
we
come.
need to know what that.
Yeah, well, we hadn't gotten the writing warrant.
No, we need to know what the original warrant that established that
Yeah,
account.
so who would have that information?
It's in the town reports.
We have to go back and try to find
We
it.
have to go back and
Yeah.
try and find what year it might have even been put in. I would assume it was when Rick was there.
So,
Roger may have it, so.
in regards to 740,
Yep,
so you have a total of 11,600, but the budget only reflects $11,000.
yeah, because we were gonna save money. We were gonna cut it down somehow to make it work.
So you're.
So we showed that this is what we truly need.
So your
Is that that
recommendation,
floating strainer?
so you're still asking for 11,000?
We're
is
still
that
asking
correct?
for 11,000.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, one question I have, what determines, you know, your apparel, whatever it is, what determines it as needing replacement? Does it have burn holes in it, or is it like all deteriorating, or why do they last for a short amount of time?
Well, we really abuse them with a lot of different things, between climbing in and out of vehicles and going in and out of fires, crawling on your knees, going up and down staircases. But there's also the NFPA standard that says that gear is only good for 10 years. Because what happens is the fire resistant materials and everything that's made out of through washing, and because you're supposed to now, I mean, you used to never wash your gear. And now the standard, because of the cancer rates increasing for firefighters, is so high, now the recommendation is that they wash it after every call. That's gonna break down the fibers in that material so that it's no longer fire resistant. So that's why the standard says 10 years, because they're saying in 10 years, and that doesn't matter if it's a full-time department, a call department, if it sits on the shelf for 10 years, then it's non-compliant anymore, because of the breakdown in that material. So that's part of the stuff. In the other stuff, if it gets burn holes, anything like that, we would take it out of the repair account and take it up and either put a patch on it, depending on what they could do, but they still have to do that and meet the standards and be compliant, so. It might take a patch that has to be done, but that would come out of a different, that would come out of a different line item. That would come out of the repair line.
So you have one more line item?
Yeah, we need to go.
811, no change, fire prevention.
So you're saying that you've spent $540?
Yes,
It doesn't reflect on the budget that got sent to us, that spreadsheet. It says nothing's been spent out of it, so.
oh, it has. And we can keep that down because we're now partnering with Greenville, to cover some of the costs of the fire prevention stuff for, the schools. So we didn't have to raise that.
Okay.
I have no idea where we ended up.
I have the notes.
121,149.
What is it?
121, 149?
Yeah, and one of the things, just to make a note, I've gone over with Joanne, is,
Yes,
my
thank you.
values for the FICA and Medi are different than yours, just because of the formula percentages, I think, but I'm at 33.48 and 783.
33, 48, and 743?
So much.
783.
783.
Yeah. And in summary, we need to calculate the fire department fuel based on what you had.
Yep.
My book is good.
Need to review the Comcast billing.
The what?
Comcast.
Comcast,
Okay.
Comcast versus Fairpoint.
yeah.
And then the rest of that reduction, or a good portion, is the stuff that went over to Peters.
Right, well, DPW's security upgrades,
Yep.
the monitoring service.
So,
And then you're gonna make the change for the Tahoe use on the field trips, training.
yes. Can I ask one question on that security system then? Because we were planning on having that $500, because right now we can't access that building, we can't issue keys to anybody to get into that building now because that system's so antiquated. So we were looking at having enough money in this year's budget to take that $500. What we did was we worked with Monadnock Security. The original bill was $1,500, and they told us if we bought the Cat 6 cable and ran it ourselves, they would give us the whole system for $500. We wanna get that done this year so that we can get our system back up and running. If we have the money to do that, can we do it, or do we have to take it out of Peter's money?
No, we can do it.
Okay.
But the question I have for you is, I'd ask,
Well, that would still come out of the general government building fund, it wouldn't come out of your budget.
What if,
Well,
what if he
if
doesn't
Peter
have it?
has it, you know, I mean, you really should talk to Peter and see,
All right,
let me
you know.
ask the question is, I thought your building already has a security system. And as Tim explained to me, it's just a matter of getting the software, because that is what was the issue.
take it away, Matt.
It's the cabling, we have to move cabling from where the actual access stuff is up in the office to now move it to the next store. So we have to move cabling, we have to now move software. The software is not free.
Why do you need to move it?
Because
The box that we have the access is upstairs. So you can't move the whole box, you have to move cabling from upstairs down to the next building. And we're going with a different software than we have now, so it's gonna cost money.
so that it can be accessed on her computer.
You're in the trailers?
Yes. Yeah.
That's the answer to the question.
Yeah, so we have to rewire.
So
right now,
they're
run
willing
off
to
the
give us the
computer
whole system if we do
upstairs
all the
where we're not
wiring
supposed to
I'm
ourselves.
assuming you've looked at wireless and
Because
decided
of the
not to go
ventilation
that way.
system and stuff, we're not
Yeah,
supposed
no,
to
they
run
don't
around
want,
there, and that's
it's
where
better
that
to do
equipment is.
wired, it's just guaranteed it's gonna work. Wireless doesn't, too many complications with that, so.
And my last question, where are you with grants for fire trucks and exhaust system?
We're waiting, we cannot do a grant for the exhaust system, so that's gonna have to be a warrant article because they won't issue grants for exhaust systems for a building that is not staffed. So she came back to us and said that she had met with some of the people from the AFG grant committees and they said they won't accept a grant for that because our building is not manned.
Now, do I understand the state is requiring us to have an exhaust system?
Yes.
And why would they require it if we can just open the doors?
Because you can't get rid of the diesel exhaust by just opening the doors. You have to exhaust that directly out of the building. So, right now, if we back our trucks in, and we're working on putting air packs and stuff back in service, the diesel exhaust just from backing those trucks in stays in that building for 2 hours.
And it gets all over your gear.
And
Yeah,
it
cause
gets
our
all
gear
over
is
your
right
gear.
by our exhaust, so it's.
Yeah.
And we're looking at moving
Just-
all that as well,
yeah.
so, yeah, so, what was your question?
Grants.
Oh, grants. So, unless we could prove that we had a bunk room,
Quiz.
which we were not willing to do, I'm not gonna put a bunk room someplace where we don't have a bunk room, then
We can't without an
didn't,
exhaust system
we didn't
anyway.
even follow up on that. The other one, we're waiting on her, we're waiting on some final numbers on injuries from firefighters for this last year. What else? It was in the email that came to Joanne. And then some
The
kind of account.
SAM.gov thing.
The SAM.gov that was being set up from the town. So we're in the final phases of the one for the truck. And we should have that report back from her.
This week, she wanted to get it to us by the end of this week
She
for
wants
our
us to have
review.
it back by
She wants
Wednesday.
to submit it by next Wednesday.
Okay.
So we're close, we're this close. Good, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
10 minutes.
Yeah, let's take a few minute break. Okay. Brian's already there.
Thank you.
We can stretch a little bit.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
One person here, or
You're gonna psych her up.
is he both health and emergency?
Yes, Nancy, and Chief. Talk about safety.
Yeah.
So that's this budget, I hope is,
Like all the
Well,
things tested.
health and emergency management is both Jim Hicks.
okay.
And then the chief is here for.
Oh, they did?
Warrant article
Okay,
for Senior
okay.
Valley
I thought that was Judy.
It's
Union.
not
Warrant article for Senior Valley Union Service.
Mhm.
Kim,
No, no,
It's
I
not
don't.
for one.
What is it?
for South Union Valley, it's been changed.
Oh. Tomorrow at the election
I agree, I've already lost my
There's gonna be
slow.
refreshments here.
meeting for now.
That was for Monday, so I don't know if she's coming or not. Somebody wants to give that to her.
Okay, I'll make sure she
And
gets
then
it.
wherever it is, and then this is what I like.
Stick it in my book.
The low.
We should- That way
That's what I
she
thought.
can at least get it.
Yeah, I'm pretty reliable
Yeah.
most days, good.
Just for the update for the budget committee. The board approved some numbers to estimate on the gallons of the prices for the gasoline, diesel, and heating oil to be used in estimating for next year. I don't know if you wanna write those down or not.
I'm, firstly speaking, I don't care because we're not gonna micromanage your budget,
Okay, well,
my opinion.
all right, that's fine. There's, prices that we took off of the US Energy Information Administration. We used their numbers for our estimating.
What do they got, but just curiosity for gasoline?
Gasoline, they have $2.26 for 2017. Diesel, they have $2.69 for diesel, and they have $2.60 for heating oil.
I think they're overly pessimistic. You'd have to assume fuel oil in a barrel would have to be $70 or $80, and there's no indication it's gonna go that high.
Well, you have to have some kind of standard,
I understand.
you know, so
Why not? Good as any.
it's gotta start somewhere. So those numbers are the numbers that we're using.
So does that mean,
Can you go over them again, please?
our,
Sure.
226,
fuel budgets are going up generally speaking this year? Quite a bit?
It depends on the usage. We don't know the usage, the number of gallons that they use this year.
And I don't think it'll be going up, because I think the ones that we used last year were at that or maybe even higher.
Yeah, they were,
Think where we were a year ago.
and where we estimated.
So did you miss it?
So gasoline,
Did you miss the budget?
226.
No, we sure
it-
there's a lower.
yes, it was $2.26.
Diesel.
Diesel,
Yeah.
$2.69, and heating oil, $2.60.
And the higher the town gets, the difference.
No wonder you guys go off track.
What's that?
And if they're too high, the town gets the
Are
difference
we
in so
gonna-
much money.
Yeah, we'll move
Yeah,
along.
it stays in the
Yeah.
general fund.
We are.
It's not used.
Sorry.
Before I fall asleep,
I'm gonna fall asleep before you do.
I'll be-
Okay,
I'll be
we're gonna
quick.
zip.
So-
We are going to zip.
All
Okay.
right, so I'll be quick. Obviously, the ambulance budget is a warrant article. It's actually not included in your town budget. However, we still feel that we need to, in cooperation of explaining everything out here, show you where we're at. We've been talking for many years on much-needed improvements at the ambulance bay. A majority of those improvements have been done over the last year, which hopefully should save us some cost savings next year. We needed a new furnace. It's the original furnace that's been in the building. It was very, very non-efficient, if you will. It now has the hot water and the boiler combined. So it's much more efficient. We actually saved quite a bit of money. I think we lowered our, by $1,000, our propane for the building. We replaced all the lights in the main room, which are now all LED as opposed, I mean, you got like 26 lights here. I mean, just running this room alone is a fortune,
Mhm.
which was the same thing in our main meeting area. We had a EMT class this year, which raised, I'm sure, some utility bills, and next year we hope to have an advanced class there as well. So in futuristic thinking and trying to save money on utilities, which as you guys have already talked about is extremely high, we hope to save some costs there, put a little bit more money up front to get it done, save more money overall. I mean, we could go line item by line item, but, you know, a majority of it, I guess the bottom dollar is, we're up, 1.3%, if my math is right. I mean, you can do that. You could do that a little bit, yeah, 1.03. The overall budget for New Ipswich would be $84,370, where last year it was $81,680. Those numbers are still lower than they were in 2015. The 2015 numbers was $85,838, so we're lower than we were in 2015, but just slightly higher than we were in 2016. In answer to your question, the Comstar income is what offsets the overall budget. Our overall budget is $309,200.
What is Comstar?
Comstar is the billing company that we contract with that actually does the billing. They bill out the bills, they get the insurance money, and it deposits into our account.
And I can tell you right now, Medicare doesn't pay squat.
Correct. Medicare does pay a far majority of 100% of what they're willing to pay. You're correct.
It's a tiny number, man.
Yes, it is much, it is,
And I assume that ComStar basically assumes that Medicare, whatever they bill.
we set the rates.
Huh?
We set the billing rates. We do
Well, When you
agree,
send it to Medicare, by sending it to Medicare,
we accept their
you
rates, correct.
agree, that's it, so you eat
Correct.
the rest.
We have no choice in that, correct. We
And
have
you
to
don't-
accept Medicare rates.
And you don't go after the person you transport.
Well, they are still responsible, not for Medicare, though, no, they're not, the patient is ultimately responsible for their bill. We do bill them. If they have a hardship, I mean, we have agreements, not agreements, we have paperwork that they can fill out for a hardship, that they request a hardship. I mean, certainly the
So
ambulance, we're
you
not trying to
basically
get blood for a
done
stone.
bill.
I'm sorry?
You've done bill, so if my wife's insurance company sent her, we go to ambulance service, and my insurance company was gonna pay $300, which is about what they get, so you've done it for the rest.
Okay, I understand this, I am on the record, we're in a public meeting, we have certain rules we have to follow, and there's certain laws we have to follow.
Okay.
We have to bill everybody 100%. Everybody gets billed across the board. If you have a personal hardship, you can apply for a hardship, and it will be discussed by my board of directors, and they can choose to either waive it, set up a payment plan, or choose not to agree and basically have you pay it. We use similar paperwork that the hospitals use for applying for a hardship, and it's kind of an industry standard. But we can't just say, we're gonna accept whatever the insurance company takes and move on.
Let me explain the situation, which is why I'm both confused and irritated. My wife goes to ER, we get a bill for, this is Catholic Medical Center within the last month, goes to ER, gets a bill from the medical center for $13,000 and a fraction. The insurance company, which is a real insurance company, pays $3,500. That's all they're gonna get. Why don't you operate like that?
Because there's certain laws we have to follow. We have to bill them. And if we can't just choose to write it off because the insurance company only pays so much. I mean, if that's the case, the insurance company will pay $100 and call it a day.
Well, how come hospitals do it?
Because they
think
negotiate,
some are
they
private.
negotiate rates with the insurance companies. The big hospital, but we're $180,000.
Can we just get back to your,
Yeah,
to your
thanks.
budget, chief? It says that the town of New Ipswich portion is you're stating
84.
that the 2017 is 84,370.
Correct.
Can you explain to me, I'm assuming that the difference between us and Greenville is that we have a higher call volume?
No, nothing to do with call volume. If you look just directly above it, it's 2010 population census numbers. Everything is done per capita. It's been done like that since the beginning of time. We've always done it. Everybody's got a personal opinion. This is kind of where we go.
Yep.
Well, New Ipswich has more calls than Greenville. That's great for this year. Are you all of a sudden going to drastically change the budget next year when Greenville has 200 less calls than New Ipswich? Right now, just an FYI, we had 466 calls last year in 2015.
Both
Right.
towns, both towns.
Excuse me? Yes, both towns. Total ambulance calls, 466 for 2015. Currently, right now, I believe we are at 425, if my memory's right. So we're on target to be way above last year's numbers. And
Now,
that,
what did you, last year was 456?
466.
466.
466 for total overall
Yeah.
call volume numbers. Now, bear in mind, that if we don't transport, we can't charge. We don't charge for anybody that doesn't transport.
But it's still a call for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, so you can look at it and say, well, everything's statistical. And we could argue statistics to a blue in the face, and this year's statistics could fight whatever argument you want. It's not gonna be the same for next year. We could have more
466 is your call number or your transport number?
total call for service.
And what percentage of the calls do you transport?
I don't have that.
Guess that.
I couldn't. It's probably gonna be, now, this year, I think it's much higher than it was last year.
70%, 50%?
I wouldn't even guess.
But
I
what
don't
did-
have that number.
What did you guess for calls for 2016?
We didn't. I mean, it's,
Oh, I thought
right
you
now,
had a
no,
number.
right now,
Yeah,
currently, we're
yeah.
at 425, I believe.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could figure out another 45 days in the month, 45 days to the end of the year. Well, actually, we got, I think, 60, 75
I was gonna
days.
say 70.
You know, if we used to average about a call,
How many days till the end of the year on your calendar?
well, all of November and all of December.
You're halfway through
Yeah,
November.
I was right with the 45.
No,
Tim
we
looked at me
did
like I was
November.
crazy. I was right with the 45.
Yeah.
So I mean, 45 days, if we even average a call a day, we're still gonna be well above last year's numbers.
And I know you, because my question was gonna be the reverse of his, and you don't bill that way, and I understand, but approximately, do you know?
We looked at it, and to be honest with you, it changes every month. You know, we have Friendship Manor, New Ipswich, we got Greenville Falls and Greenville, and it was always, oh my God, Greenville Falls has all the calls. Well, actually, the year we looked at it, it was Friendship Manor that had all the calls. Now, Greenville Falls isn't really the elderly complex anymore, and it's not necessarily the patients, if you will, it's the potential for call for service, which is why it's always done per capita. I mean, you guys do the school system the same way, right? Per capita?
That's mixed, I think.
Is it?
This,
Yeah, and it would be,
It's 75-25.
is it, yeah, we're at,
75,
No, it's
75.1.
it's 84, 16.
used to
We're
be
at-
100%
we're at 70.
zeros,
that
it's
doesn't
75.
matter.
yeah,
Doesn't
our
matter.
percentage rate is 70.78 versus 29.22.
It's different.
Um,
Schools are different.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whatever, the numbers can change depending on who's trying to save a buck tomorrow. I mean, and that's why I try not to fight numbers. I'm out there to provide life safety, and that's what we do.
Yeah, just a
Um,
quick question, if you go somewhere, and
Mhm.
somebody say that they have, they're kind of bleeding pretty badly,
Mhm.
and you go there and you kind of patch them up a little bit, and they're not bleeding, and you don't take them, there's no charge?
Correct. Yeah, we can only bill for what the insurance industry calls as a loaded mile. Basically, it's when the ambulance, I mean, we could take them to a helicopter, and we can bill that time as a full service of dropping them off to helicopter. But you can't go to a scene, have them sign off, have a no transport or refusal of care, and then charge them for it.
Do you know, out of the total amount of calls that you've done this year, are ones to the town of New Ipswich?
I don't.
Can you get that to me? Just for my own personal,
You really wanna go down that road?
I do.
You're gonna play towns against each other, and you're gonna start World War III.
No, I just wanna know how many calls are being
Against Greenville,
in the town of New Ipswich.
you already stuffed it.
It's a fair question. If you look at the multiple calls with the fire
Well,
department,
and
you're
to
showing
what end
two.
would that do?
For my own personal curiosity.
Okay, because if we had 20 more calls in New Ipswich, are we gonna start changing this formula?
No, I'm not,
Okay.
for my own personal
Right.
curiosity, I'd like to know how many calls.
I looked at,
how
when I look
many
at my
is done in
statistics, a lot of what I looked at is when the calls come in, time of the day, because I look at staffing, so that was one of my big things. I look at majority of the calls, and it's literally 50-50 right now for daytime versus nighttime, which we consider daytime anything from 6 AM to 6 PM. So it's actually kind of a surprising statistic to still be at 50-50, and it's been like that for the better part of 5 or 6 years, which I thought was kind of, we thought it was gonna switch, and it just really stays consistent. So that's kind of like the overall number, and again, we increased our anticipated income, and again, it's a guesstimate for next year to offset our budget with $190,000, because we anticipate, obviously, with call volumes continually going up and transports going up, and hopefully more people having insurance with the requirement to be forced to have insurance, that we actually get income as opposed to.
You can say that here.
Well,
Yeah, you
I
can say that.
So, you know, the optimistic thing is that we actually get paid for service as opposed
Right.
to not. There was some changes some years ago from, I believe it was Harvard Pilgrim was one of the insurance companies that basically wrote the check to the patient and not to us. And basically you cashed it and we never went after you for it. And that was kind of the hard thing is
It's handy.
we needed, yeah, it was handy if you had rent to pay. But it wasn't handy for us providing a service, because ultimately those monies were offset by taxpayers' dollars. So we do have a collection agency that if it goes that far, that it goes to collection agency. And we still have the authority to withhold that from going to collection agency should there be a write-off or a hardship or an agreement made to make payments. I mean, we're not trying to get blood from a stone, but we also know that there's people out there that are just blatantly irresponsible. And the rest of the community shouldn't pick up the services responsibility because your neighbor chooses not to.
Not to pay their bills.
So we try to be fiscally responsible, and I think if you look through each line item, we really done due diligence to try and reduce our budget as we can. Some items are down, others are up, and some of that goes to stuff that we've already paid this year that we won't have to do again next year. You know, the ambulance equipment and repair, not to get into logistics here, but you know, we installed new stretcher mounts in the ambulance, which is a safety feature it's an upcoming safety mechanism that all new ambulances are gonna have. And that alone is, you know, $3,000. But it's a cost we're not gonna have to face again, it's already in there. The new ambulance we purchased already came with it, so we retrofitted the other one to install it in there.
Why, just, and as you started earlier, you're just a vendor.
But we tried.
Why did the wages go up so high?
Basically call volume. Anytime, you know, as industry changes, our call volume goes up. So
You
we have to
added
pay
more
people to go.
personnel?
We didn't add more personnel, but we added more calls. So if you're paying somebody to go on a call, you
Oh, they get paid per call.
well,
Thank you. That explains,
Okay.
that's,
Not all the time, but some of it.
during the day, we pay somebody to be there during the day. But at nighttime, it's an on-call thing. So if they go out, we don't pay them the on-call rate, they get their hourly rate. So as the call volume goes up, so does the pay.
We also had a big increase in, as everybody knows, in overdoses. You know, and those, most of those were not transports. I mean, that's increased us.
Yeah.
CPR has just come out, well, the state of New Hampshire's just come out with a new protocol for CPR. We now have to, they want us to have 6 people on it. You get a call of somebody unconscious, not breathing, they want 6 people on that call.
How many?
you know what? When they fund it, you tell them you'll have the 6
We
people.
have a license that they write for.
There's,
That's the problem.
there's a lot of things too to take into
They don't-
consideration. If you have, you know, if you have not to minimize it, but if you have a typical minute call and you only have 2 people to take the call, that's probably sufficient. But when you have your heroin overdose, your cardiac arrest, your motor vehicle accident, you need the more people. It's a safety fee, it's a safety thing on us too. One person in the back doing CPR the whole way to the hospital is, you know, it's not good quality care. So you should have multiple people that
The
are in
average
the back.
person just can't do CPR that long.
Agreed.
So,
I know I
And
can't.
You know, David, you're right. They tell us all this stuff, they don't give us an increase. It's like, you know, it's like, you have to do this, you have to, they changed last year, they changed, we used to have, an what was the old title for advance?
No,
intermediate.
Intermediate, we had an intermediate, 3 levels. They changed that, and now you have to have an advanced, and the protocols for that and the training for that is far more than what.
We did take on
intermediate
more
was.
people this year as well. We did have an EMT class at the Bay, we picked up one immediately, we're hoping to pick up another one, I think she tests in December, beginning of December. So we may not even get her on board till in January.
Those are EMTs, not paramedics.
Correct,
We have
EMTs, it's,
one paramedic.
yeah,
One call.
in order to become paramedic, that's years, you know, and to be
Yeah,
honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna find too many paramedics that wanna volunteer their, or I can't say volunteer, but do on-call paid for the small money that we pay them when they can go get a full-time job in a bigger city, or jump from service to service and put their time in. It's just, it's not feasible in a small town like us.
What's your typical staffing on an ambulance right now? What are you scheduling?
We schedule 3,
3?
yeah.
Three
And
EMTs.
2 minimum by state rule.
Everybody's an EMT, so you don't have
No,
to.
that's not true. We do have a driver. We do have 2 EMTs. We had 2 EMTs minimum requirement and a driver, so
And a
that
driver,
puts 2
okay.
people in the back. But right now, we only have 1 driver because of this, our old driver became an EMT. So that's good for us. He's already got the awareness of the service and where all our equipment is. So it's a good transition for him into EMT.
But you have to find a driver.
Correct.
Pay them less, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, are we all set with this, so we can move on?
Well, thank you. That was quick.
The one thing I would ask, Tim, if you could just, out of the blue, come up with a percent of transport versus non-transport. Just, even if you just sit around the fire station and drink 3 cups of coffee and make up a number, better than any
I
number.
won't do that. I'll give you accurate numbers. I knew what they were a couple months ago.
What were they?
I don't know now. I knew what they were a couple months ago when I looked.
They were?
And obviously that changes if it was 3 or 4 months ago. I mean,
Now, I don't know what they was. I want to say it was probably 60% easily.
60%?
Might be 66%, but I don't remember now. That's why I don't want to give you a number.
60% is fine. 60% which way?
As in transport.
60% transport for walking the other way.
That's
But it
what I
doesn't mean
was
you're not providing care, it's just.
No, I didn't, no,
You
I
provide care
understand.
and they say, I don't wanna go.
Okay,
I have a question. Is this brought up to us just to tell us, or do we have any say-so on it as far as?
No, cause they're a private, we're just looking at the bottom line and the chief here is explaining how he got to the bottom line.
So basically, it doesn't really matter whether we hear it or
I think
not.
everything matters, and I'd love to hear
No,
any
it does
input you have.
matter.
If you have something that you'd like to, question or, I'd like to, we're always on the up and up. We put our heart out there, let you know where we're at. If there's something that you guys think is wrong or a problem,
Yeah, I think too much government control is wrong. That's good. It ain't good for me
I
to
agree.
say
Here
it.
I am sitting in a
You know,
meeting with
so,
you guys for a
you know,
warrant article.
What good is it for me to say it?
But Brian, we can't go in and we can't start cutting their budget, we don't have the authority to do that.
You know, the town gets free services out of this. When we go out and put Grady back in bed because she fell out of bed and can't get back in bed, when somebody ends up waking up and finding the person in the house that has died. We
That's a
go out-
non-transparent call you
We
do
go
for
out
free.
to all of those things. We go out to a lot of accidents because it's automatic. We go sit at fires for hours. I know it's only 4 or 5 a year, but that costs us money.
I got the picture, so my same answer is the same thing to you.
Let's,
You got a triage headache. You got so much equipment sitting there.
Oh,
you
legal
really
stuff,
need
yeah,
it.
so legal stuff is incredible.
Jim, which one are you gonna do first? Emergency
Okay.
management or?
You can get out of
You
it,
all set?
yeah.
Thank
okay,
you.
thank you
very
very
much.
much.
You know how to get a hold of me, any questions?
Well, I used your service once, so I'm glad,
Oh,
yeah.
They never really
His-
do that.
I hope you pay.
Thank you.
I did that.
Thanks,
Which one do you wanna do first?
emergency management.
Do it to it.
All right, the only thing I've added this year, and I think you got some of the explanation, was
Which one are you working at, sir?
emergency management.
Okay.
Okay, my batteries and my portables are old, and I need to replace them, and that's $236, I think it came out to. All right, so that's a pretty no-brainer. We have, the other thing that I've asked for is I'm asking you for $1,000, and here's what the explanation is, to consider $1,000. We have a trailer that was given to all of the services, it's called the command trailer, back when Rick Hewitt was fire chief. And it was for the support of police, fire, and emergency management missions, if you will. It's now parked in the back of Highway Department. We used that extensively in the ice storm. We ran out of it for 2 days, like this, in the backyard until Paul Somero came down and said, hey, come up and use our office building. I've got power, you can use the conference room. We still used it up there because that was our means of communicating with the rest of the world, was through those radios there, on our dispatch centers. It was taken and put behind the fire station, and apparently just left it. So 3 years ago, we appropriated money to upgrade the radios. We had to, what they call narrowband them. And we paid for the 4 radios in that. And at that point, it was at the highway building, and I don't know, there was no power, I couldn't get the guy in there. So when the weather got good, we brought it up here, and we scheduled the radio work to be done, and we opened the door, and the carpet inside of it is all moldy. The carpet's gotta get pulled out of there, and we've got to see, I don't think we should put carpet in there. Something like that to me, why they carpeted it, it's absolutely beyond me, but that's the way it came from FEMA. I mean, to me, it would be much more practical to do a linoleum or a tile.
Keeps the mud down or something.
Right, it's something you can clean up afterwards. But anyway, the thing is sitting over there, it's not useful, a radio shop won't go in and work on the thing, work on the radios, so the radios that are in there are all wideband, they're not narrowband.
And that's because of the mold, they won't go in?
I have the same problem with my repeater, but that's another story, I'll tell you some other time. Anyway, I don't even know what $1,000 is gonna do.
So where are you looking to put that $1,000, in the general supply line item?
Well, special project, whatever you wanna call it, I don't know, but that's what I want that $1,000. I want it to go to that, let's get the stuff out of there, and see where we need to go from there. Maybe we can fix it all for $1,000. I mean, how much is a piece of linoleum or a flooring for a 10 by 14 or 10 by whatever it is, trailer? I'm hoping that the stuff behind the paneling is not contaminated. I don't know. So, we may, if you approve $1,000, we may get in there and I may get the job 80% done with $1,000.
You ever plan on towing it? You ever planning on towing it anywhere, or is it just fixed forever?
Oh, no, we mean towing it, we tow.
Putting it behind a car and towing it?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
it's,
do.
yeah. It's
All right,
designed.
you thought to think about changing the tires? Or only every 5 years,
Oh,
trailer tires,
even when it's not run?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's not running.
Well, that's something,
Is that correct?
before I'm gonna put tires on there, we gotta make sure we can use it. I mean, that's something that we need to look for in the future, I would think.
Okay.
But my question is this, Jim, who's responsible to maintain the trailer?
Well, I mean, the fire department is headed there. They should have been.
But under the grant, who was responsible for it
I don't know.
pursuant to the grant?
Well, the fire department.
Did the fire department get the grant in order for the
Rick
trailer?
Hewitt got the grant, but it was gotten for the 3 services. Actually, it was dedicated to my predecessor, Bill Edmonds, when he passed away.
When I read that, and I'm like, I really don't wanna put money towards it to replace it, clean it, and in 3 to 5 years, somebody come in and say, oh, it's got mold in it, we got $1,000. I wanna know who's gonna
Well,
maintain it. And if it, I wish we had probably you first and then the fire department, we could've.
well, and what has happened, and the reason it's up here is because Meredith said to me, why don't you take it up there and you take care of it? Because obviously, we don't have the room down here for it, and I don't know, what's going on with the highway, the old highway building, using that at all?
That shut down, we disconnected everything.
Yeah. So, Peter found space for it, yeah, and so Tim and Meredith sort of had put this in my lap and said, see what we can get it going, see if we can get it up again.
Well,
There's 2 outcomes of this, besides not having that, and we would have used it at least at the propane incident.
Mm-hmm.
Say again, say again?
We would have used it when we had the propane truck flipped up here.
Okay.
All right, number one. The other thing that you have to consider is, if I get audited, I've been audited once on that, it was a number of years ago, and I've been audited on the radios. And they come in and see it like that, what's the outcome of that? At the very least, the outcome is, they go back and go, don't give them anything else. And I know the fire department's trying to get, and all the funds come out of public safety, it doesn't matter what's emergency management,
Right.
police, fire, it all comes out of the same office up there. Pam Urban Warren,
Something like that.
Yeah, she is the one that decides whether you get a grant.
But somebody's gotta come up with a policy, Jim, of who's gonna maintain the trailer, and I would ask you, Tim, and
Well-
Meredith get together and come up with a plan.
Yeah, it's,
And if that person be you, then
you're gonna have to
that's
maintain it.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why it's up to them.
And
They
yeah.
asked me if I would,
And
In the
using it
condition
once,
that it, let me rephrase this, if that were cleaned and renovated in the area that it's stored, are we still prone to having the situation again if it's stored for 6 months? Or is
It's
this
not
some?
outside.
No, it's inside,
Right,
but I
I
believe it's in
hear,
an
yeah.
unheated
right, it is unheated,
area, so you're
Right.
still gonna get your warm and cold and,
right. But I think the reason it became damaged is because people were walking in and out of it with snow-covered shoes and during the ice storm, if you remember.
it
And
never
then they
got
just-
cleaned up.
And then they just let it sit there. I think emergency management is, willing to
Take
take
it on.
responsibility and keep it maintained and test the, because I said, when's the last time you even tested a radio in there? You're gonna wait till you get to an emergency, pick up the mic and nothing happens?
Yeah, no, I think that's fine.
but if you didn't have it, what would happen?
Would stand out in the cold and depending upon what the environment was handing
How
to us.
often do you use it?
It's not been used since we discovered it. This,
So the, rarely is the answer.
That's why it's called an emergency.
I was gonna say the same thing.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
I'm gonna disagree. There's no excuse for having a piece of quote emergency equipment if you sit and let it sit for 5, 6, 7, or pick your favorite number of years and call it emergency. It's not gonna function when you need it. It is not gonna work when you need it. So
That's
either
the
you
point.
exercise it or you junk it. Those
Well,
are the
that's
two
the
choices.
point.
no, you
The
can't.
thing
junk
is,
it.
the point is
You
either
can't junk
exercise
it's
it
a grant.
or junk it.
You can't
can't
junk
junk
it.
it.
It's a grant.
It's on somebody's books in FEMA somewhere. I don't know where they
The
are.
point is that it needs to be put back into service. It went out of service because it wasn't properly cared for. And what Jim is saying is that,
I don't see it changing. I mean, all the nice words aside, I mean, I'll give you the example. Question, how often, Paul, you have an emergency generator in your house? I do. How often do you fire it up and try it out? Once every 3 or 4 weeks. I want that, when I need it, I want that thing to run. And just because I ran it 2 years ago, doesn't give me a good feeling it's gonna run when I jerk the cord. Same answer.
And this is what he's trying to do, is trying to maintain it, because there was no funds available to maintain it. Because nobody knew who was responsible for it. So he's taking on the responsibility, and now he needs the money to maintain it.
Next year he's gonna be sitting here, we're gonna hear the same story repeat.
well,
Sorry,
that's
I'm
just a
hard-headed
lack,
about this
that's
stuff.
just a lack of faith in people.
It is.
Well, I didn't have control over it. All my radios downstairs work because I test them all the time.
Good, I mean, you should, right?
Right. I mean, so all I can say is I can account for what I oversee. And so this has been brought over to me to try and straighten out and maintain. And that's why I'm here with that. I mean, I don't.
Can we go down through the budget?
Yeah.
Orphan,
We'll be
the
here
word
all
orphan
night.
is what
Yeah.
I use.
Sounds like a
It's an
plan.
orphan.
You've got the
And
stipend, you've added the deputy back in,
But what, I'm sorry.
the deputy,
Right,
right.
we have a deputy.
We have a deputy, yes.
Okay, well, you-
Where is it that you, general supplies is where you've added the $1,000, it appears.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, do you wanna put a line, another line for that?
I want something so that we can know it's a one-time cost, that it's not.
Well, can we just add a line that says trailer maintenance? Emergency trailer, command
Yeah.
trailer maintenance?
why don't you do
Do
that?
that?
You
Can
can-
we call that 615?
Yeah, we use it.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Brian, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I think that one,
Okay.
I have better things to do.
Okay.
I think the real emergency is when the country goes belly up and we're in the soup line, that's the real emergency.
That's a Brian statement, not me.
Well, they think it's a joke, we'll see after tomorrow's election.
But we're trying to be proactive.
So you're gonna create a line 615 for that?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so there's $236 in that line for batteries,
okay.
portable batteries. What do you wanna do with that 236? Do you wanna leave that in general supplies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You were the type of
I know, but they would go to me and saying,
Brian, are you there? You can leave it. Okay with you?
What's that?
I'm saying it's okay with me if Brian leaves.
Oh,
Not a prisoner.
no,
I have vote today, signs it up.
go.
So what are you gonna call that, command trailer maintenance?
I just put it
Trailer
EM
maintenance.
trailer maintenance.
Okay,
And I'm writing myself a note on the side, one-time cost.
well, I'm not lying, I may come back to you next year and say, I need another $400, or maybe I'll say I didn't
That's
spend
fine.
200, I don't know.
That's fine. Okay,
You know, we've been carrying this 186 off the dues,
yep,
and as far as I'm concerned, you can take it out,
Okay.
reduce that.
do we need to leave $1, or is this a category that you won't be using?
Oh, is that why the dollar's there?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I was wondering why they put a dollar on
If you zero it out, you're gonna lose
it.
it.
Again.
Yeah. Do you have any
Could we
subscriptions or
add-
fees or dues or anything
Could
that
we
you're paying?
recreate one if all of a sudden some
Or you getting like,
association came along
as
that,
long as the budget passes. If the budget doesn't pass, then you don't get that line item. If you
Okay.
don't have a line item, the dollar is a placeholder. And if you don't have the dollar,
I see what you're saying.
all
Well, let's hold the dollar then,
right,
I think it's
Which one?
dues,
Subscription and dues.
subscriptions and fees.
260.
I think we're jumping around here. Can we go
Yeah.
back to the top?
Okay, go ahead.
Start at the top. So are you leaving the directors at 5,000
Mhm.
and your deputies at 2,000?
Yeah.
So then we'd leave this at 434 and 102.
All right, we've already,
And your education training line item,
I
I'm sorry.
I thought he
This
was
time,
down
I can't.
to,
We're skipping around,
Jeff-
that's the problem.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I hear you.
We went from deputy down to
Right.
supplies and then back up and. we're not
So
going- we're
what
not
I'm
going anywhere.
showing is we have the 5,000 for the director, 2,000 for the deputy, FICA 434, you've got, under
So
2,000.
it's, oh, the difference in the actuals, because we didn't pay it on the deputy, that's what it, okay.
Right, but I'm just looking at what your budget is and where we are, so, Medicare, emergency management training, you've spent 42, you're asking 100, you had 100.
What are you doing education wise? What's your
I mean, I go to a lot of
anticipation?
different courses, but what I think I'm gonna be doing is sending my deputy to a couple of them. I'll be calling
Yeah.
some basic ones, some ICS 100 and that sort
But
of
those
stuff.
can be taken online for free.
Yeah,
100,
but
200,
you know what,
70.
taking them online for free does not teach you anything. Because the Classic Fit Academy is all day. So how do you think you learn? I don't know. Maybe the 42 came out of travel.
that's $100.
42 sounds like Travels of Concord.
The other thing I wanted her to do this year was to get an Aries license.
A what?
Aries license, the Amateur Radio Emergency Services license, and that is a $75 fee.
Okay.
You know, for her to do that.
Yep.
It's a weekend course.
Okay.
I don't know what Ian Workers was in.
Workers' comp.
Workers'
That's going away. That can be deleted.
Well, so why is that going away?
Well, everything get merged into one, it's getting
Oh,
merged into
okay.
one line.
You guys.
It's not that it's going away.
Maybe I shouldn't ask.
Yeah.
And so I want to obviously leave the travel in there to send her to some courses.
That's something that board was gonna look at, is what we're doing that travel rate, just as a reminder.
Yeah. You bumped that up $75. Did you realize that? Jim?
Yeah.
Travel?
Right.
Okay.
Well, at this point, that's, what is it, 40-something cents a mile? It's almost 50 cents a mile, isn't it?
It's more than
We've been
that.
paying upwards almost 54,
Yeah.
and it's,
I just was asking
And
if
I've
you
been- and I've
realized.
been putting in for 45.
Oh.
So, I mean, that's not a lot of miles.
No, it's not.
If it's 50 cents a mile, that's 75 miles.
Mhm.
70, well, no.
But Ricky just wanted to make sure that you knew that you.
that's why that
covered it.
online
Yeah.
course was sounding pretty good to me, but keep
Well,
going.
yeah. I don't like the online
Yeah,
courses, I'll be quite frank with you.
Let's not,
Yeah.
let's keep going down.
All right, my computer stuff is to pay for cartridges. I use, I mean, I've had a couple of problems down there, and he's come down and straightened them out,
Who's he?
the computer guy.
Greg?
Greg.
Oh, we haven't been billing to here.
No.
he's just saying.
Wow.
So this $100 for ink cartridges paid for everything.
Right, so I've just ordered another ink cartridge.
Yeah.
So should I be putting more in that if I'm gonna use Greg? I mean, does that go to my
It
department?
doesn't go to your department.
Okay.
No, but
Yeah.
I was thinking that if you're buying consumables for computer equipment, it should probably go under supplies,
Yeah,
okay? So,
Under general supplies.
general
Well,
supplies.
5, 6,
Yeah, computer
610.
equipment would be if,
610.
if you were looking at a different computer.
okay, yeah, I have no
Okay.
problem with that. That's cool.
You need-
so does 236,
That's
Does
his
not cover.
batteries.
So you're
So
looking at-
add, how much was your, how much?
336.
Okay, 336.
And you put in $1 in the other.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just saying you wanna leave
dollar.
$1 in
Yeah.
now?
Well, just to keep it alive.
Dollar in which one?
Computer
Computer
equipment.
equipment.
That way if you need a new computer at some point, then you can.
What's the communication, telephone, internet?
Okay, right, it's telephone, internet, and cell phone. And not cell phone, fax line.
Okay, 736 is good, okay.
That's something else I wonder, what percentage of my budget pays for internet? How is that determined?
Cause you're using the internet here at the town hall, correct?
Hmm,
So it's probably not getting billed to your account.
You have to build, it's,
well, I would like you to look into that,
Yeah,
all right? Because I understand that it is, and I understand it's quite a high percentage. And it was done back in the Reed days.
all right, check into it.
The clothing, actually, I've spent some of my.
Come back up, I still got one that says dues, subscriptions and fees.
Right, and I said, let's get rid of that.
$1.
So we're gonna
So that's
keep it
$1,
going.
okay.
Right,
336, trailer maintenance was 1,000.
Yeah, and then,
Nothing under postage, envelope, or paper.
Most
So
of the
next
steals
one's
from
for general
Joanne.
supplies.
yeah,
Protective clothing.
Your deputy's gonna need a jacket,
Right,
correct?
and that's what, I've just ordered a jacket.
What about the last one you bought?
Yeah, wait a minute though, yeah, you just bought her one because we haven't spent anything, so do we need another 300 next year?
Well, you know, during the ice storm, I ruined the jacket, taking the Canadians up to our site. And I don't wanna wait another year to buy another jacket. You know?
What about the jacket you were just wearing on the first alarm over at Warwick Mills?
That's what I'm saying, that was a replacement, because during the ice storm, my original jacket got ruined.
So that one came out of this year's budget?
No, no, that
No,
came
no.
out of,
It cost you $300 for your jacket?
no, they're really now, about $100.
I just bought one and it cost me like $80, so I don't
And
know.
it
I
meets the
want a
standards.
$300 jacket.
Yeah, it's a
Oh my God.
5-in-1 highly
Come on.
reflective jacket.
guys,
I don't know, the last time I bought one, it was like $140.
But
That's
she's-
not 300.
But she needs a jacket, correct?
Right, she
So
does,
they need-
and
I
that
think
gives
they
me
need
room
two.
for replacement.
Hmm?
I think they need two then.
But then you need to send that out to get printed on the back
No,
and lettered.
the company does that, but I get it from, that's why I'm thinking.
That's why it's so high, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about a bare bones jacket.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So you're gonna have $600 for jackets.
No,
No,
300.
300.
He's got 300 from this year, and 300 for next year is $600.
300, I've already ordered a jacket.
For her?
Right,
So that's gonna come out of this year's budget,
right, so that'll come out of
2015
50,
budget.
60.
And it was $300.
16's budget.
So what I'm asking is to
So
put
they-
300 in, and it's like a reserve in case we ruin it.
I don't agree with that.
No.
No.
You already, it's a $300 when you bought it.
That's
It's
fine, but,
constant,
you know, I
that's what
respond to a lot of accidents and stuff here in town. If I don't have a jacket, I'm gonna tell the police chief, no, they
I
wouldn't let me buy
I understand,
it.
the question was, it cost $300. The jacket that you just bought cost $300.
No. I just said it cost 150
Did you get,
to have it lettered.
that's fine. Did you get like gloves with this or anything else besides a jacket?
No, I haven't.
Are you planning on getting anything else?
Yeah, I'm planning on getting her a couple of shirts, so when she goes to meetings, she's got a shirt that says.
So you have like a polo where it says New
Right,
Ipswich,
yeah.
so you gotta buy those and have them lettered and
Right.
printed and everything else, so.
Mhm.
We're not just talking a $300 jacket, we're talking uniforms.
Mhm.
you all set?
I don't agree with that.
Can you do like $100 in here? If we're talking jackets, or we're talking like shirts and gloves and,
And again, if I ruin my jacket, if something happens to it, I'll just tell them I'm off the call list.
It's good.
I know what you're trying to do, but you're trying to set
Oh,
money aside for just in case, but this
That's
is
right.
actually supposed,
But you know what emergency
So-
management is?
I understand, I know what it is, Jim, I was an emergency management director and deputy director for 5 years.
Yeah, it's a just in case
Yeah, I get
agency.
it.
Do what you want.
What's your proposal? Proposals?
$100.
I'd say buy it out of this year's budget.
Which would be her jacket. So what are you talking,
He's got
everything?
$300
$300.
sitting there. He
Mike-
has not, I'm answering your question.
No, you're not, because I haven't asked it yet. What are you proposing that he buy?
The way I see it is he's got $300 here. He's bought one jacket, right?
I've ordered one.
For 150, for your,
Well, yeah,
for your
someone's-
friends, or not, I'm sorry, the person that's, your assistant.
Right.
Okay, so now you have 150 left this
And I'm
year.
gonna get her a couple of shirts, right?
You're gonna get her a couple of shirts. The shirts aren't,
No, I
75
usually get
apiece.
one polo shirt,
So their shirts are
and
how
I
much?
get one
They're
Dungalee
just-
shirt.
They're just
that's
trying to
long
find out how much. Shirts are how much?
sleeve. Well, the polo shirts, I think run around 40, probably
Okay, so they're
45 or something like that.
closer to that.
And printed, yeah, and you gotta have it printed.
And then I usually get one long sleeve shirt.
So that's your answer to the $300.
But we don't.
I don't see polo
Don't see
shirts
it.
as protective clothing. We're not outfitting people with polo shirts.
No, but you know what, David, when you go to meetings, everybody's got them on, with the name tag.
Okay.
And I hate to say it, I was gonna order a name tag too, but maybe we
We'll leave it at $1, just so they comfortably don't.
You have nothing in there for any contingency. It would
Oh,
be different,
right.
it would be different, I would have more of a problem if we had, I would have less of a problem of zeroing an item out like that if we had other things for him to fall back on within his department, on one hand. On the other hand, you're talking $300. If you need a jacket, you're gonna get a jacket. It doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be in your budget, but it will come out of somewhere in the budget. So I'm not concerned too much with that.
where else would it come?
There's a whole town here of money. It would come from, not necessarily your department, but it would come, you would get a new jacket. I'm, you know, that's not an issue as far as I'm concerned. So, do I think we should drop it to 0? No, I think that we should probably leave something in there for gloves or hats or something that he might need on the off chance that he would need it. $300, doesn't matter, you're gonna get a jacket if you need it anyway. So, that's my recommendation, $100.
Do you agree with her, David, that I would get a jacket anyway? If I needed a jacket, do you think,
Jim?
and I came in and I said something to you, you'd find the money somewhere?
Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
If we had an emergency where you went and you ripped your jacket during that emergency, I'd assume it's like an ice storm type of an emergency.
Mhm.
So if we didn't have funding in our budget to cover that, we go to the DRA to use our fund balance to cover the cost. So in that case, that would have been a cost that we would have incurred. I have no problem, if this said that I need protective gloves, I need whatever, I'm fine with that. It's when we start outfitting people in polo shirts, t-shirts,
Name
comfy jackets. To me, yes, it makes us look nice when you're with other people and whatnot, but to me, I'm focused on safety. That's what it is. Planning.
I mean, it is a lot of money. I don't care, zero it out, do whatever you want.
No, I
It's
plugged in
up to you,
100, is
you
that
know?
what you said?
I said, what do you?
$100.
It's fine.
So you didn't answer my question.
What was your, yes, I would find the money
You would
to,
find the money.
yes, if you came and you
'Cause
said,
I mean,
hey,
I think next year she may not be here,
oh.
and I'll have to see you.
Well,
But
she
she said
she's
it.
not gonna be here.
And then you're gonna forget.
Right, and then I'm gonna say,
And
don't
you'll
you?
remind me.
Yeah.
And
Go
don't
back to the minutes.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Okay, all right, are we all set with this?
And the last thing was that plan, just leave that in at 0, or can we delete that line?
How often does it come up, Jim?
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years?
Mhm.
Up to you, Joanne, if you wanna carry the line or if you wanna delete it.
All right, let me tell you what 2017 is gonna bring. It's gonna bring FEMA coming after us to redo our hazard mitigation plan.
Can we just do that one?
No, I've done it too many times.
Okay.
Well, see.
It was a joke, it
right.
was a joke.
The first approval was in 12, so 17, 5 years, they're gonna, so I have already put in for one of the free grants, the 100% grants, so that they make us do this. And to be quite frank, I'm fighting it. I'm saying it hasn't changed. The only thing I want to have 2 meetings, review what we've got and add drop, and that's it. But I don't know if I'm gonna get away with that. I mean, FEMA's got the damn rules, and I just don't know if I can beat them. But,
You
that,
got a grant in,
huh?
you got an application for a grant.
I've already got,
So
I've
leave
got
it-
us
leave it
aside.
in.
We're, so you could change that line to hazard mitigation, and every 5 years it'll flip from one, or every few years it'll flip, unless you want, whatever
No,
works for you.
just put a
comment
dollar.
wise.
And it doesn't do anything, it doesn't hurt to carry the line,
Just makes things confusing, like why are we doing that?
because it comes up every 5 years.
Not the emergency operation plan.
Yeah, it does. Every 5
So
years
then-
that comes up.
Okay, so then in
It goes-
2017, we're gonna add one for hazard mitigation
Mitigation.
plan, and then we're gonna keep that one on there for 5 years?
No, I would assume that we can put them under the same,
Could you slash it?
yeah,
Hazard mitigation slash,
well, we don't even need all those,
Hashtag.
we don't even.
I heard that somewhere, I don't know what they
Can't we just
mean.
I
do
know, what does
emergency plans, emergency planning,
So,
something like that, emergency planning, then you never need to change it,
Hmm?
all right?
almost, huh?
Okay. You got about 2 minutes here,
I don't need to.
talk health.
Excellent.
All right. As you know, I took on the role of the health officer. And it has become very apparent to me that I don't have the time to do everything. And health officer is one of the things that I have decided I'm gonna drop for a number of reasons. So what I said to Joanne was, I would submit a suggested budget, because I know what the meetings are, I know what the dues are. We were, if you wanna go down line by line, I mean, the stipend is up to you, obviously, it's whatever you wanna pay. Oh, the health workers, that's another workman's comp, right?
What are we doing that you know of for dues and subscriptions, anything?
Okay. The dues are 35, that's
Yes.
what we paid last year for the, to belong to the,
Like the association or whatever it
right,
is?
that's
Okay.
exactly what it is.
Okay.
There were 2 meetings in Concord a year, so you gotta give mileage at least for that. All right, there's a spring and a fall meeting. The other thing that happens though is like Manchester Health will run a special on healthy homes, on bed bugs, on all kinds of things, and that's another, you know, you're gonna have to pay somebody to go up and attend that. The MRC in Keene, along with the Health Bureau out there, does all kinds of programs in the.
Seminars and all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff.
and so you wanna be able to pay that person mileage to go to those, because they are very informative. And there are also examples of problems we've had here in town.
Okay.
And that, I mean, that's basically what I came up with. And I said, you know, I said I really didn't wanna do it after the first of the year, and I certainly, if you guys had something that you wanted me to help with, would be more than happy to help. I just don't want the end responsibility being put on me.
How many hours did you put into it this